In the depths of history, scattered across the globe, lie discoveries that defy all logic. Ancient artifacts that whisper secrets from civilizations long forgotten, phenomena that challenge the very laws of nature. And yet, for all our knowledge, there are mysteries that no one can explain, enigmas that continue to puzzle the brightest minds of science. What if we told you that, right now in our world, there are things so perplexing, so beyond comprehension, that even the most advanced technology and the sharpest intellects have been left in the dark? From the eerie, inexplicable events witnessed in the skies to ancient relics that suggest knowledge lost to time, these are the things that keep scientists awake at night. How did the builders of the pyramids know the stars? What caused a silent explosion that changed the earth itself? And why, after centuries, do some of these mysteries remain unsolved? Join us as we unravel the most baffling discoveries that continue to elude human understanding. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into the unknown. In the early hours of April 14th, 1561, the people of Nuremberg, Germany, witnessed something extraordinary, a celestial event so strange and unsettling that it would leave its mark on history for centuries to come. As dawn broke over the city, a scene of confusion and awe unfolded in the skies above. Witnesses reported seeing numerous objects of various shapes and sizes, some resembling spheres, others like cylinders, moving in a seemingly orchestrated dance across the heavens. At first glance, the sight may have seemed like nothing more than an unusual meteorological phenomenon, a collection of floating clouds, or perhaps a fleeting burst of light. But what came next defied any such rational explanation. The objects, hundreds if not thousands, appeared to clash and collide with one another, creating brilliant flashes of light and ominous explosions. Some witnesses described the scene as a battle in the sky, while others saw it as a procession of unknown celestial bodies moving in ways that were impossible to understand. To the people of Nuremberg, it was as if the heavens themselves were in turmoil. This strange event was captured in an engraving by Hans Glaser, a local artist who had witnessed the spectacle himself. The engraving, titled "The Nuremberg Celestial Phenomenon," depicts a chaotic sky filled with enormous, otherworldly shapes, crescent moons, globes, and cylinders, some of which appear to be fighting each other. In the background, a dark cloud seems to swallow the whole scene. The intensity of the images suggests a scene of something far beyond ordinary human comprehension. The engraving is often regarded as the primary visual record of the event. It serves as a testament to the fact that, whatever the people of Nuremberg witnessed that morning, it was not something that could be easily explained. There were no previous records of such a sight, no precedents in the skies, and no clear answers to what had occurred. Historians have long debated the meaning and origin of the Nuremberg celestial phenomenon. Mainstream explanations have leaned toward natural or astronomical causes, meteors, comets, or even the effects of atmospheric phenomena, like the reflection of sunlight on ice crystals. Some have suggested that the event was simply a mass hallucination, a shared illusion among the townspeople. However, the sheer number of witnesses, many of them credible and respected individuals, raises questions about such simple explanations. After all, how could so many people from different walks of life experience the same vivid and extraordinary event? And then there are the more speculative theories, those that delve into the realm of the unknown. Some have suggested that what the people of Nuremberg saw that day might have been an early encounter with what we would now call UFOs, unidentified flying objects. The shapes described in the reports, spheres, discs, and long cylindrical objects, are eerily reminiscent of descriptions of modern-day UFO sightings. Could it be that extraterrestrial visitors were observing the Earth long before we were even aware of their presence? And if so, why Nuremberg? Why at that specific time in history? Others have pointed to the possibility of a celestial or spiritual event, a divine intervention, or a celestial omen. Throughout history, strange occurrences in the sky have often been interpreted as messages from gods or harbingers of significant change. The fact that the event occurred during a time of great social and political upheaval, just after the Protestant Reformation and in the midst of the 30 Years' War, adds another layer of intrigue. Was the celestial phenomenon a warning to the people of Nuremberg, a sign from the heavens of the trials to come? Some have even suggested that the Nuremberg celestial phenomenon could have been the result of a secret military experiment, though this theory is often met with skepticism. The idea that advanced technology was already in use during the Renaissance seems far-fetched, but the strange and coordinated movements of the objects have led some to question whether there was more at play than a simple natural occurrence. One of the more intriguing aspects of the Nuremberg celestial phenomenon is the lack of a clear explanation. Unlike other events from history, where modern science can provide a reasonable answer, this incident remains shrouded in mystery. The accounts of the event vary, with some witnesses describing the objects as fighting and others reporting them as moving in synchronized patterns, almost as if they were controlled by some unseen force. Could these objects have been the result of an unknown natural phenomenon? An atmospheric event that has never been replicated or observed again? Or was there something more to the story, something hidden in the ancient skies that modern science has yet to uncover? The Nuremberg celestial phenomenon is a reminder that, for all our advancements in knowledge, there are still corners of the universe that remain impenetrable to our understanding. Despite the centuries that have passed, the questions raised by this event continue to linger, unresolved. Perhaps the most striking element of the Nuremberg celestial phenomenon is its enduring mystery. Unlike many historical events that fade with time, this one has kept its place in the annals of intrigue. It serves as a testament to the unknown, to the possibility that there are still things out there in the sky that we have yet to fully comprehend. What was it that the people of Nuremberg saw that day? Was it a celestial battle, an extraterrestrial encounter, or something far beyond our current understanding? As we continue to gaze at the stars, perhaps we are only scratching the surface of what lies out there, waiting, just beyond the veil of explanation. And so, as we reflect on the Nuremberg celestial phenomenon, we are reminded that not all mysteries are meant to be solved. Some are simply meant to remain, suspended in time, inviting us to wonder, what did we truly witness, and what, perhaps, is still hidden from our view? As we journey through the annals of history, we encounter many figures whose legacies have shaped the course of civilizations. But few loom as large as Genghis Khan, the founder of the Mongol Empire, a figure whose reach spanned continents, whose conquests reshaped the map of the world. Yet, despite his unparalleled achievements and his monumental role in history, one of the greatest mysteries surrounding him remains unresolved: the location of his tomb. The story of Genghis Khan is one of power, ambition, and conquest. Born in the early 13th century, he united the disparate Mongol tribes into a single, unstoppable force. Under his leadership, the Mongol Empire became the largest contiguous empire the world has ever seen, stretching from the Pacific Ocean to the heart of Europe. Genghis Khan's name is synonymous with military genius, and his empire was built on the back of a fearsome and disciplined army. Yet, for all the bloodshed and conquests, there was one thing Genghis Khan valued above all else: his legacy. And in keeping with that, he ordered that his burial be shrouded in secrecy, a decision that would lead to one of the most enduring mysteries in history. Legend tells that, after his death in 1227, a vast and intricate plan was set in motion to ensure that no one would ever discover the resting place of the great Khan. His body was carried back to Mongolia, where it was buried in an undisclosed location, far from the gaze of outsiders. But the secrecy surrounding the burial went much further than mere concealment. It is said that the funeral procession took an unusual path, with the workers who carried the body instructed to kill anyone who saw it, perhaps even those who might have stumbled upon it by chance. Once the burial was complete, the area around the tomb was said to have been leveled, as if to erase any trace of its existence. Despite this, the tomb of Genghis Khan has never been found. Over the centuries, numerous expeditions have been launched, both by treasure hunters and by historians, in an attempt to uncover the location of the Mongol leader's final resting place. Yet, all have met with failure, and to this day, no one knows where Genghis Khan lies buried. The most widely accepted theory suggests that the tomb is somewhere in the vast, desolate landscapes of Mongolia. Specifically, many believe it lies along the Onan River, in the Khenti Mountains, the birthplace of Genghis Khan. This theory is supported by Mongol oral traditions, which point to the area as the location of his tomb. However, despite extensive searches in this region, no definitive evidence has ever been found. Some believe that the tomb may even be hidden beneath the steps of a now vanished structure, perhaps a monument that no longer exists, or one that has been disguised to prevent discovery. Interestingly, the search for the tomb has been hampered by more than just the natural difficulty of the landscape. In the early 20th century, the Soviet Union, which controlled Mongolia at the time, discouraged any investigations into Genghis Khan's tomb, fearing that it could incite nationalism or disrupt the political order. This led to the suppression of any serious archaeological expeditions, and many believed that the Soviets deliberately concealed information that could have led to the tomb's discovery. Despite the obstacles, some modern explorers continue to search for clues. In 2004, a team of Russian archaeologists, led by a man named Sergei Karpov, uncovered a burial site in the Khenti Mountains that they believe could be linked to Genghis Khan. The site contained a set of ancient artifacts, including gold and silver ornaments, as well as an unusual burial method that was consistent with Mongol traditions. However, without more evidence, the connection to Genghis Khan remains speculative, and the search continues. But what if the tomb was never meant to be found? What if, after centuries of searching, the key to the mystery lies not in the physical world, but in the stories and legends passed down by the people who lived alongside Genghis Khan? Mongol traditions speak of the tomb being hidden in plain sight, beneath the surface of the earth, but also of strange spiritual rituals meant to protect it from outsiders. Could it be that the tomb is not lost, but deliberately shielded by forces beyond our understanding? Another theory suggests that Genghis Khan's tomb might not even be a traditional burial site at all. Some believe that his final resting place could be symbolic in nature, a site that represents the power and reach of the Mongol Empire, rather than a place containing the body of the man himself. Could the tomb be hidden within an ancient structure, an artifact, or even a landscape feature that symbolizes the strength and unity of the Mongol people? There are countless possibilities that continue to stir the imagination of historians and explorers alike. And yet, despite the passage of centuries, we remain at the edge of the unknown. Every new discovery, whether it's an ancient tomb, a forgotten artifact, or an unusual burial practice, adds another layer to the mystery of Genghis Khan's final resting place. But for all the evidence, all the clues, no one has yet managed to answer the most pressing question: where is the tomb of Genghis Khan? Some would argue that the search for the tomb is an exercise in futility. Perhaps the tomb is meant to remain hidden, a testament to the power and legacy of a man who reshaped the world in ways we are still trying to understand. Others believe that the tomb may be located in a place that is simply too elusive, too difficult for modern science and technology to uncover. As we continue to investigate, we are left to wonder, will we ever discover the resting place of Genghis Khan? Or will it remain a secret, locked away in the past, forever hidden beneath the earth. In the vast, untouched landscapes of Mongolia, the mystery persists, an enigma that continues to haunt the curious, offering no answers, only more questions. As the quest for the tomb of Genghis Khan continues to captivate the imagination of explorers and historians, there is another enigma from the past, equally as elusive and unsettling, that still challenges our understanding of ancient history: the mystery of Ötzi, the Iceman. It was September 19, 1991, when two German hikers, Helmut and Erika Simon, were traversing the glacial landscape of the Alps near the border between Austria and Italy. While hiking in the high, rugged terrain, they stumbled upon something unexpected. What they initially thought to be a pile of rocks turned out to be the perfectly preserved body of a man, frozen in the ice. Little did they know, they had just uncovered a discovery that would rewrite our understanding of prehistoric life. This was no ordinary human remains. What they had found was a person who had lived more than 5,000 years ago. The body, which came to be known as Ötzi, had been so well preserved in the glacier that it appeared almost as if he had only recently died. His skin, hair, and clothing, made of animal hides, remained remarkably intact. In fact, everything about Ötzi's discovery was extraordinary, from the depth of his preservation to the evidence it provided about life in the Copper Age. But the mysteries surrounding this ancient man run far deeper than the shock of his remarkable preservation. As scientists examined the body, they uncovered a wealth of information that seemed to invite more questions than answers. Who was Ötzi? What was his life like? And most intriguingly, what happened to him in his final moments? Forensic experts have worked tirelessly to reconstruct Ötzi's life from the physical evidence left behind. His body revealed a wealth of details. He was about 45 years old when he died, roughly 5'3" tall, and weighed about 110 pounds. His teeth were worn down from years of hard labor, and his joints showed signs of arthritis. His clothing, made from fur and leather, and his tools, which included a copper axe, indicated that he was a man of his time, skilled in survival and familiar with the technologies of the Copper Age. The most significant revelation came when researchers conducted an in-depth analysis of his stomach contents. Ötzi's last meal consisted of a mix of grains, meat, and plants, which provided a glimpse into his diet. But perhaps more striking was the discovery that he had eaten his meal just hours before his death, suggesting that he had been alive and functional right up until the moment he was frozen in time. However, it's the circumstances of his death that have sparked the most intrigue. Initially, some believed that Ötzi had simply succumbed to the elements, an unfortunate soul who had gotten caught in a storm or a blizzard in the unforgiving mountain passes. But as scientists examined his remains more closely, they discovered something far more disturbing. Ötzi had been murdered. X-ray analysis of his body revealed a small arrowhead lodged in his left shoulder, a wound that had likely caused severe internal bleeding. It seems that Ötzi was shot from behind, in what appeared to be an ambush. The arrow had been so deeply embedded in his body that it was impossible for him to have removed it himself, suggesting he was struck down while unaware of the attack. But this discovery only raises more questions. Why was Ötzi killed? Who would have wanted to harm him? And what was the nature of the conflict he had been involved in? One prevailing theory suggests that Ötzi was the victim of a tribal conflict, a victim of the violence that was not uncommon among early human societies. Some even speculate that he might have been part of a larger political or social struggle, perhaps a leader or an individual of significant importance within his community. His death, then, would have been a violent and targeted act, rather than the result of random banditry or a simple accident. Yet the mystery deepens. Alongside the arrow wound, scientists discovered evidence of something else. Ötzi's blood was contaminated with traces of both the bacteria Borrelia burgdorferi, the causative agent of Lyme disease, and H. pylori, a bacterium linked to stomach ulcers. These findings suggest that Ötzi may have been suffering from multiple health conditions, which would have made his death even more tragic. It's possible that he was already weakened by illness before he met his violent end. Were these health issues known to those around him? And could they have played a role in the decision to attack him? As investigators delved deeper into the circumstances surrounding Ötzi's death, a series of additional, even stranger discoveries began to emerge. For one, his final resting place, high in the mountains, in the icy grip of the glacier, seemed to suggest that his body had been deliberately placed there, rather than left to the mercy of the elements. How did Ötzi end up in such a remote and inhospitable location? Was he fleeing? Or had he been left there intentionally after his death, perhaps as part of some ritual or symbolic act? Another peculiar detail was Ötzi's belongings. His copper axe, which was a valuable tool at the time, suggests that he was an individual of some standing. His possessions not only spoke to his knowledge of metallurgy, but also to his importance within the community. Yet these same possessions raised more questions. If Ötzi was traveling alone, why did he have such valuable items on him? Was he journeying through the mountains with a purpose? Or was he attempting to escape? And why was he carrying with him a range of tools, including a medicine kit containing fungi used to treat infections, suggesting that he was not simply a victim of nature, but a man familiar with survival strategies? The questions about Ötzi's life and death are endless, and each new discovery seems to lead to more uncertainties. Some have suggested that he could have been a shaman or a healer, given the medicinal plants he carried. Others speculate that he may have been part of a secretive group or had a role that was significant to his tribe, perhaps a spiritual leader whose murder carried a deeper meaning. As with many ancient discoveries, the mystery of Ötzi invites us to reconsider what we know about human history. We often assume that our ancient ancestors lived simple, isolated lives. But Ötzi's story, filled with complex relationships, possible tribal conflicts, and advanced knowledge, reminds us that these early humans were more sophisticated and interconnected than we might have imagined. In the decades since his discovery, Ötzi's body has provided an unprecedented look into life during the Copper Age, but it has also left us with more questions than answers. Why was he alone in such a remote place? Was his death a ritual sacrifice, a targeted assassination, or the unfortunate consequence of an age-old tribal conflict? And what, if anything, did Ötzi know about the dangers that would ultimately take his life? As researchers continue to analyze Ötzi's remains, one thing is certain: the mystery of the Iceman has only deepened over time. Each discovery brings us closer to understanding his world, but it also reminds us that there is still so much we don't know, and in the vast, silent expanse of the Alps, the body of Ötzi waits, still frozen in time, offering us fragments of a life long gone, but never fully understood. The quiet hills of Slovenia are home to many wonders, but nestled in a remote valley near the village of Hrastovlje, there lies one of the most puzzling and perplexing images to have survived the centuries. It is an image that has inspired curiosity, skepticism, and speculation. The figure painted on the walls of the Church of the Holy Trinity, a figure that seems strangely out of place for its time and location, an image that some believe resembles an alien being. The Church of the Holy Trinity, dating back to the 15th century, is not a large or imposing structure, yet within its modest stone walls, an extraordinary scene unfolds. The church is famous for its striking frescoes, particularly a series of paintings that adorn the walls of the nave. These artworks were created by an unknown artist, but their symbolism, vivid colors, and curious depictions have attracted attention for centuries. However, among these ancient frescoes, one image stands apart from the rest, an image that has perplexed art historians, scholars, and even casual visitors to this day. The fresco in question depicts a strange humanoid figure. painted with an unsettling sense of precision. The figure, which is part of a larger scene of the Dance of Death, is shown in full body, wearing a sleek, tight-fitting suit that bears an uncanny resemblance to modern depictions of alien beings. The figure's head is large, elongated, and oval-shaped, with eyes that appear disproportionately large compared to the rest of its face. The being's arms and legs are thin and spindly, while its body is dressed in what looks like a full-body suit or armor. To some, it seems as though the figure has descended from the sky, like an extraterrestrial visitor. At first glance, it's easy to dismiss the image as the product of artistic imagination, possibly influenced by religious or symbolic themes. However, the resemblance to modern depictions of aliens, creatures with large eyes, smooth skin, and oddly shaped bodies, has led to a more speculative interpretation. Could this figure, painted long before UFOs and extraterrestrial encounters became a part of popular culture, be a depiction of something otherworldly? Or is it simply a product of the artist's own vision, one that has since been misinterpreted in the light of modern knowledge? The fresco itself is set within a broader medieval theme, the Dance of Death, a depiction of the inevitability of mortality and the idea that death comes for all, regardless of status or wealth. In this context, the alien-like figure is shown standing amongst other skeletal representations, reminding the living that death, in all its forms, is a universal and inevitable force. Its inclusion in this scene could be interpreted symbolically, perhaps as a representation of death's unknown and mysterious nature. But then, the question arises: why, in the 15th century, would an artist choose to depict such an unusual figure, something that looks so strikingly similar to the modern image of an alien? This was long before the advent of science fiction, UFO sightings, or even the idea of extraterrestrial life as we know it today. And yet, there it is, an image of a strange, otherworldly being, frozen in time for centuries. Some have speculated that the figure might be a representation of an angel or some other supernatural being. In medieval religious art, angels were often depicted in a variety of unusual forms, sometimes with glowing, ethereal bodies, sometimes with large eyes or other exaggerated features. Perhaps the artist was attempting to depict an otherworldly being, but one that was grounded in the religious beliefs of the time. This theory suggests that what we are seeing is not an alien, but a divine figure, designed to inspire awe and reverence among the faithful. Yet, the theory that the figure represents an extraterrestrial being cannot be so easily dismissed. Over the years, various proponents of the ancient astronaut hypothesis have pointed to the fresco as evidence that early humans were visited by beings from other worlds, beings who may have influenced the development of ancient civilizations. According to this view, the artist of the fresco may have been trying to depict an encounter with an alien species, and in doing so, left behind a clue for future generations to uncover. Could it be that the artist of Hrastovlia, influenced by an unknown encounter or divine revelation, painted an image of an alien being, perhaps one seen in a dream, or one witnessed by a member of the community? After all, many ancient cultures around the world have their own stories of sky gods, or heavenly visitors, who descended from the sky, bearing strange knowledge and technology. From the biblical accounts of angels to the Mayan stories of the gods descending in fiery chariots, the idea of celestial beings visiting Earth is a theme that recurs in many ancient cultures. Interestingly, the Church of the Holy Trinity is not the only place where such enigmatic depictions have been found. Across the world, in both ancient and medieval art, there are images of figures that seem to defy conventional understanding. Some of these figures appear in religious contexts, others in the backdrop of historical events. In many cases, these strange depictions have been written off as artistic exaggerations or religious allegories, but they continue to capture the imaginations of those who seek out hidden meanings in ancient art. What makes the Hrastovlje fresco especially intriguing is its isolated location and the context in which it was created. Unlike other examples of alien-like figures in art, this one exists in a rural, small-town church, far from the cultural centers of Europe. The painter, whoever they may have been, left behind an image that seems out of place in the context of its time. Was it simply an artist's attempt to depict death's mysterious and incomprehensible nature, or could there be something more to this unusual figure? The alien-like painting in Hrastovlje offers us a glimpse into the unknown. Was it an inspired vision, a religious symbol, or an encounter with something entirely beyond our understanding? The absence of any direct explanation leaves us with only speculation and imagination. And yet, as we continue to explore the mysteries of the past, we are reminded of how much remains hidden, locked away in the folds of history, waiting for the right questions to unlock their secrets. Perhaps, in the end, the true mystery lies not in what the painting shows, but in why it was painted at all. What did the artist see? What did they know? And why did they choose to immortalize it on the walls of this small, remote church, leaving future generations to wonder and question? From the high, sun-scorched plains of southern Peru, where the earth stretches out in every direction like an endless tapestry of dry dust, emerges one of the most perplexing archaeological mysteries: the elongated skulls of the Nazca region. Hidden within the vast, arid landscapes of the Peruvian desert, the Nazca lines capture the imagination with their sprawling geometric forms etched into the earth, some of which can only be fully appreciated from the sky. But just beneath the surface of this enigmatic region lies a discovery that is perhaps even more puzzling: the strange, elongated skulls that have baffled researchers for centuries. These skulls, first discovered in the early 20th century, have been the subject of intrigue and debate ever since. They are a striking departure from the typical human cranial structure, with their unusually elongated shapes, sometimes extending to nearly twice the length of a normal skull. These deformed heads, discovered in tombs and burial sites in the Nazca region, bear characteristics that do not align with the anatomical norms of most known human populations from the period. Unlike typical skull deformities caused by natural conditions, these elongated skulls are not the result of trauma or malnutrition. Instead, they seem to suggest a deliberate alteration of the body, perhaps even a custom of some cultural or ritualistic significance. The ancient Nazca people are known for their artistry and complex culture, but what inspired them to modify the shape of their skulls in such a dramatic manner? Was it purely a cosmetic choice, or was there something more profound at play? The practice of skull elongation is not unique to the Nazca, nor even to Peru. Similar practices have been observed in ancient civilizations across the world, from the Maya in Central America to the ancient Egyptians and the Huns of Eurasia. In many of these cultures, the act of shaping the skull was associated with beauty, status, or spiritual significance. But the Nazca skulls present a particular mystery: the extent of the elongation and the seeming uniformity of the practice, which suggests a deeply embedded tradition rather than an isolated occurrence. The elongated skulls of Nazca are thought to have been produced during the late pre-Columbian era, around 1000 to 1500 CE, though some estimates suggest they could date back even earlier. The bodies were often buried with grave goods, such as ceramics, textiles, and sometimes human and animal sacrifices, pointing to a culture with intricate beliefs in the afterlife and the spiritual world. But what do these skulls tell us about their owners, and why were they altered in such a dramatic way? One of the key mysteries surrounding these skulls is the question of how the elongation was achieved. While there is little doubt that the practice was intentional, the methods used remain unclear. The most widely accepted explanation is that the skulls were deformed through a process known as cranial binding. This involves applying pressure to the skull during early childhood, when the bones are still soft and malleable, to achieve the desired shape. The practice is believed to have been carried out with the use of cloth or wooden boards, gradually reshaping the skull over the course of several years. However, some researchers have pointed out that the degree of elongation seen in the Nazca skulls, along with their large, often unusual features, goes beyond what would be expected from simple cranial binding. The skulls exhibit extraordinary elongation, but also unusual anatomical features, such as larger eye sockets and different proportions of the skull, which suggest that there may be more to the story than just cranial deformation. Some fringe theories propose that these skulls could represent evidence of something far more extraordinary, perhaps even extraterrestrial influence. According to proponents of the ancient astronaut hypothesis, the elongated skulls of the Nazca may be evidence of contact with alien beings. These theorists point to the striking similarity between the elongated skulls and the depictions of extraterrestrial beings commonly seen in modern pop culture, suggesting that these ancient people may have encountered beings from the stars who shared their genetic traits. While this theory is highly speculative and widely dismissed by mainstream scholars, it nonetheless invites further contemplation about the true origins of these enigmatic remains. Another theory proposes that the elongated skulls could be symbolic of a connection to the divine or to higher spiritual beings. In many ancient cultures, physical alterations to the body were often seen as a way to align oneself with the gods or to gain favor in the afterlife. It is possible that the Nazca people believed that elongating their skulls would bring them closer to the gods, or perhaps that it would mark them as special or chosen members of their society. In fact, the role of the skulls in the Nazca culture is still unclear. Were these elongated individuals elite members of their society, perhaps priests or leaders? Were they members of a particular clan or group? Or was the practice of skull elongation more widespread across the population? Some researchers have speculated that the elongated skulls were associated with social status, with those possessing these skulls occupying a higher position in society. Others suggest that the elongated skulls were reserved for a particular class, such as the nobility or the spiritual elite. But again, no definitive answers have emerged. The tombs in which these skulls have been found often contain the remains of other individuals with more conventional skull shapes, suggesting that the practice of skull elongation may have been a distinct cultural or religious practice, separated from the general population. This raises questions about the identity of those with the elongated skulls. Were they a separate group, perhaps a ruling class or a priestly caste, whose status and authority were symbolized by their distinctive cranial features? Despite extensive research and examination, the exact purpose behind the elongated skulls of the Nazca remains an open question. Were they the result of a religious or cultural practice intended to create a physical connection to the divine? Were they meant to signify a special status, one that set these individuals apart from others? Or, as some speculate, is there something more to the story? An ancient mystery, perhaps even a hidden history of human evolution that remains locked in the bones of the past? What remains certain is that the Nazca skulls, with their distinctive features and mysterious origins, offer a tantalizing glimpse into the ancient world, a world that may have understood the body and the spirit in ways we have yet to fully comprehend. And as researchers continue to probe the depths of Nazca's history, the question of why these skulls were so deliberately altered lingers, a silent whisper from the past that continues to elude definitive answers. The legacy of the Nazca people, once thought to be defined by their breathtaking geoglyphs, now includes these skulls, mysterious, haunting, and as enigmatic as the lines etched across the desert floor. What secrets do they hold, and what might still be hidden beneath the sands of time? On a cool, overcast morning in the vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean, a strange and unsettling event unfolded. It was August 16, 1950, when a blimp, a small, unassuming dirigible that had once been used for surveillance during World War II, drifted silently above the waters off the coast of California. But this was no ordinary blimp. It was a ghostly vessel, floating eerily in the sky without a crew, its pilotless form drifting aimlessly through the thick fog. The Ghost Blimp, as it came to be known, was the remains of an aircraft that had somehow become unmoored from its operators, with its crew mysteriously absent. The blimp in question, known as L-8, was a U.S. Navy airship that had been assigned to a routine reconnaissance mission to patrol the coast of California. The mission was straightforward: search for possible enemy submarines in the region during the early years of the Cold War, a time when tensions between the U.S. and the Soviet Union were beginning to escalate. The crew of L-8 consisted of 2 men, Lieutenant Clarence B. Rivenbark and Ensign R.B. Ogg, both seasoned veterans of airship operations. As the blimp set out from its base in Moffett Field near San Francisco that morning, everything seemed normal. It rose into the sky and sailed toward its assigned area over the ocean. But hours later, it was discovered floating without its crew, drifting silently through the air with no signs of struggle or distress. The crew had vanished, leaving behind a scene that would become one of the most perplexing and chilling mysteries in aviation history. When L-8 was finally recovered, it was found in an almost eerie state of abandonment. The blimp, which was a relatively small and light craft, was still tethered to its control lines, but there were no signs of life aboard. Inside, the cockpit was completely deserted. The radio was on, but there had been no distress call. Neither of the 2 men was ever found. The life rafts, which should have been used in the event of an emergency, were still intact and on board. The blimp's engines were operational, and the blimp's control surfaces had not been tampered with. But despite this, no one could explain what had happened to the crew. The mystery of L-8 quickly captured the imagination of the public, and various theories emerged in an attempt to explain what had transpired. One of the most straightforward explanations was that the crew had experienced some sort of mishap or emergency, possibly a medical issue that had caused them to fall unconscious or become incapacitated. But this theory seemed incomplete, as there was no evidence of such an emergency, and the blimp had continued to fly for several hours after the crew had disappeared. Another theory suggested that the 2 men had been taken by a freak weather event. The foggy and unpredictable conditions off the California coast could have played a role in the disappearance, perhaps even causing the men to become disoriented or incapacitated. Yet, no signs of turbulence, storm activity, or any unusual weather phenomena were recorded during the flight. The L-8 had been caught in clear skies as it floated aimlessly above the ocean. Some have even proposed that the disappearance of the L-8 could have been linked to a UFO encounter. The strange, unexplainable nature of the event, combined with the unexplained absence of the crew, led to wild speculation that the airship had been taken by extraterrestrial forces. It is not difficult to see how the idea of a ghost blimp could lead to associations with alien abductions or other supernatural explanations. After all, the disappearance occurred during a time when UFO sightings were becoming more frequent, and the public's fascination with flying saucers was growing. But while the notion of alien involvement may capture the imagination, there is little concrete evidence to support such a theory. In contrast, the most plausible explanation from aviation experts at the time was that the 2 crew members had simply fallen out of the blimp at some point during the flight. Given the position of the blimp when it was found, some believed that the crew had either jumped or fallen into the ocean, possibly after being incapacitated by some form of chemical exposure or hypoxia, a lack of oxygen due to the blimp's altitude. However, despite extensive searches of the surrounding area, no trace of the men's bodies was ever discovered, nor was any debris found that could have indicated a fall from the airship. To further complicate matters, some reports suggest that the blimp was found to be flying at an unusually low altitude when it was finally recovered. So low, in fact, that it was hovering just above the ocean's surface. Could the two men have simply been swept away by a rogue wave or lost in the ocean's fog before the blimp was recovered? Again, no conclusive evidence was ever found to support this theory. As the years went on, the mystery of the L8 faded into the background of Cold War-era military secrecy and UFO speculation. Yet it remains one of the most perplexing, unsolved cases in the history of aviation. The absence of an explanation has left room for endless conjecture. Why was the blimp found undamaged, with no sign of struggle or panic? Why was there no distress call or indication of an emergency? And where did the crew go? Perhaps most unsettling of all is the fact that L8 was not the only aircraft to go missing under mysterious circumstances during this period. The mid-20th century was a time of rapid technological advancements in aviation, but it was also an era where many strange and unexplained disappearances occurred, whether in the form of missing planes, ghost ships, or enigmatic objects in the sky. The L8 incident serves as a chilling reminder of how even the most routine operations can sometimes result in the inexplicable. Today, the L8 Ghost Blimp remains a haunting reminder of the unexplained, a curious event that continues to spark the imagination. Despite decades of research and investigation, no definitive answers have been uncovered. And as new technologies and scientific advancements continue to push the boundaries of our understanding, the question remains, what truly happened to the crew of the L8? Did they vanish into thin air, lost forever to the sea, or is there something more to this strange and unnerving story, something that science has yet to explain? The mystery endures, lurking in the fog over the Pacific, leaving us to wonder what might still be hidden in the silence of the sky. The ocean stretches endlessly beneath a sun-drenched sky, a tranquil expanse that hides untold secrets within its depths. Along the coast of Colombia, just off the northern shores of the Caribbean Sea, the waves have kept a centuries-old mystery hidden beneath their surface, the treasure of the San José. Once thought to be a myth, a mere tale of gold and fortune lost to time, the fabled treasure of this ill-fated Spanish galleon has become one of the most sought-after and enduring mysteries in the world of maritime archaeology. The San José was a 62-gun galleon of the Spanish Empire, built in the 17th century and designed to carry a large fortune in gold, silver, and emeralds back to Spain from its colonies in the Americas. In 1708, during the War of Spanish Succession, the San José was sailing home from the riches of the New World, its hold filled with precious cargo, including gold from Peru and emeralds from Colombia. Vast sums worth an extraordinary amount of wealth by today's standards. But the ship would never make it to its destination. On the morning of June 8, 1708, the San José was ambushed by a British fleet near the coast of Cartagena, Colombia. After a fierce battle, the San José was struck by cannon fire and eventually sank into the depths of the Caribbean, carrying its immense fortune with it. The British had managed to destroy the galleon, but they could not recover its treasure. The San José sank quickly, its crew and the riches it carried lost to the ocean's deep embrace. What remained was a ghost ship, its wreckage, like its treasure, forgotten by time, but not by the world's treasure hunters. For over 300 years, the San José remained lost to history, a tale of riches and ruin. Over the centuries, the ship became the stuff of legend, with countless explorers and fortune hunters attempting to locate its wreckage. Some believed the treasure would remain hidden forever, a mere fable passed down through generations. Others were determined to find it, their eyes always on the horizon, hoping to uncover the vast fortune that lay buried in the sea. The mystery of the San José treasure would have remained unsolved if not for a breakthrough in 2015. After years of searching, a team of Colombian scientists and archaeologists, working in cooperation with international experts, finally located the wreck of the San José some 600 meters below the surface, about 12 nautical miles from the coast of Cartagena. The discovery was monumental, as it confirmed that the ship and its treasure were real and waiting to be recovered. But while the wreck of the San José was finally found, the treasure that was believed to be aboard remains elusive. Since its discovery, questions have swirled about the exact contents of the San José's hold. Some believe that the treasure may still be trapped in the wreckage, deep beneath the waters. Others speculate that it may have been looted over the centuries by pirates or scavengers, with little or no trace left behind. What's certain, however, is that the San José holds a mystery that continues to captivate the imagination and draw the interest of treasure hunters, historians, and governments alike. The treasure, estimated to be worth anywhere between $1 billion and $17 billion, has sparked international debates over ownership and recovery rights. The Colombian government, who discovered the wreck and its cargo, claims legal rights to the treasure. Spain, however, has contested the claim, arguing that the treasure belongs to the Spanish crown, as the San José was a Spanish vessel. This conflict over ownership has only added to the intrigue surrounding the San José, turning it into a geopolitical puzzle in addition to an archaeological mystery. Adding another layer of complexity, the treasure of the San José is not simply a hoard of gold and silver. Among the riches believed to be aboard were an array of exquisite emeralds, some of the finest ever produced in Colombia's mines, which were world-renowned at the time. These emeralds were so valuable, they could have made the San José treasure one of the most prized hoards in history, surpassing even the famed treasures of other legendary ships like the Atocha or the Flor de la Mar. But the presence of these unique stones has led to further speculation about the role they may have played in the ship's fateful journey. Could they have been the catalyst for the San José's ill-fated voyage? Was the ship's cargo not just a simple treasure, but a treasure with a darker, more enigmatic significance? The tale of the San José's treasure is not just about wealth. It is also about the shadows cast by the events surrounding its loss. The sinking of the ship was not a random act of piracy, but the result of an intense military conflict between the Spanish and the British. In this context, the loss of the San José is a reminder of the brutal, often violent world of 17th century colonialism, where vast fortunes could be lost or gained in the span of a single battle. And while the ship's treasure has certainly captured the attention of many, the lives lost aboard it, including the 600 crew members, are often overlooked. What were their stories? What became of them in their final moments? One of the most perplexing aspects of the San José mystery is the sheer scale of the treasure that remains unaccounted for. In 2015, when the wreck was located, it was described as an extraordinary find, largely intact and with some parts of the ship still remarkably well preserved. Early reports suggested that vast quantities of gold coins, bars, and ingots were still present in the wreck's hold. Yet the specifics of what has been recovered remain unclear. Some experts claim that it is unlikely the treasure could ever be fully recovered due to the depth at which the ship lies and the challenging nature of the seabed in the area. Furthermore, the complex legal and ethical issues surrounding the wreck's recovery have raised concerns about whether the treasure will ever see the light of day. Even more mysterious, however, is the possibility that the treasure might not be the only thing hidden within the wreck. As underwater archaeology continues to advance, it's possible that the San José holds even more secrets, historical artifacts, documents, or clues that could shed light on the final voyage of the ship and the fate of its passengers. For centuries, the wreck lay undisturbed, its mysteries held tightly beneath the sea. could there be more waiting to be discovered, or is the treasure all that remains of the San José's storied past? As governments, archaeologists, and treasure hunters continue to grapple with the legal, technical, and financial challenges of recovering the San José treasure, the mystery of what lies beneath the ocean's surface remains unsolved. What happened to the gold, the silver, the emeralds, and to the souls who perished aboard the doomed galleon? And what other secrets could still be buried with it, waiting for the right moment to emerge? In the end, the San José treasure may remain as elusive as the ocean itself, vast, deep, and filled with unknowns. For now, all we can do is wonder, as the waves lap against the shore, what might still be waiting beneath the surface, hidden in the silence of the deep. The narrow pass of Thermopylae, where history and legend intertwine, lies hidden in the folds of a rugged landscape. The terrain is unforgiving, steep cliffs on one side and the relentless gray expanse of the Aegean Sea on the other. It is here, in the shadow of the mountains, that one of the most famous and enigmatic battles in the history of ancient warfare took place, the Battle of Thermopylae in 480 BCE. Though this event is well documented in historical texts, the exact details of what occurred in this fabled narrow pass, especially the full extent of the tactics, the heroism, and the moments that led to its legendary outcome, continue to spark intrigue and debate among historians and scholars to this day. At first glance, it seems almost too dramatic to be true. A small Greek force, perhaps only 7,000 strong, standing against a Persian army that could have numbered anywhere from tens of thousands to a few 100,000. And yet, the Greeks, under the command of King Leonidas of Sparta, held their ground against this overwhelming force for 3 days, blocking the Persian advance into mainland Greece and buying crucial time for the city-states to unite. The ultimate outcome, as most know, was tragic. Leonidas and his 300 Spartan warriors, along with their allies, made a last stand to delay the Persians, dying in the process. But in doing so, they ensured the survival of Greek civilization. What remains unclear, however, is not the bravery of the Spartans or the outcome of the battle, but the full scale of the significance of their sacrifice. What happened during those 3 fateful days in the Pass of Thermopylae that led to the birth of one of the most enduring myths in Western culture? And how much of what we understand about the battle is grounded in the truth, and how much has been clouded by time, embellishment, and legend? Let us first take a look at the geography of the pass. Thermopylae, meaning hot gates, was named for the sulfuric hot springs in the region. A narrow, natural corridor that ran between the towering mountains and the sea, it was strategically significant, for it was one of the few places in Greece where an army could move through unchallenged by the surrounding mountainous terrain. This made it a perfect bottleneck for the Persian army under King Xerxes, who was determined to conquer Greece and bring the Greek city-states into the Persian Empire. The significance of the geography at Thermopylae cannot be overstated. The narrowness of the pass meant that only a fraction of the Persian army could fight at any given time, and this gave the defending Greek forces an inherent advantage despite being vastly outnumbered. The Greek soldiers knew the terrain well and were able to use it to their advantage, forming a phalanx, a dense line of tightly packed soldiers who fought with spears and shields. This formation made them nearly indomitable, especially in such a confined space. However, despite the well-documented military strategy and tactics, one of the most mysterious aspects of Thermopylae lies in the question of how such a small force could hold out for so long. The Greek forces, including the Spartans, were led by King Leonidas, who is now remembered as the epitome of sacrifice and courage. But was the battle truly just a desperate stand against impossible odds? Or was there more at play? A deeper, more intricate plan that went beyond military tactics? Modern historians often refer to the battle as a key moment in the defense of Greece, but the circumstances leading to the battle and the aftermath present many unanswered questions. What was the role of the Persian strategy? Xerxes' army was vast and seemingly unstoppable. Why, then, did the Persian king not simply crush the Greek forces sooner? Was there something more at play than just strategy and numbers? Perhaps an element of hesitation, miscalculation, or overconfidence that allowed the Greeks to hold their ground longer than anyone could have expected. Additionally, the Greek alliances, though essential to the war effort, raise questions about the cohesion of the Greek city-states in the face of such an external threat. It is often said that the Spartans were the only ones truly willing to fight to the death at Thermopylae, while the other Greek forces were there in support. But how did this division affect the outcome? Why did the Athenians, who had a powerful navy, not come to the aid of the defenders at Thermopylae until the battle was almost over? One theory is that the Greeks at Thermopylae were not just fighting to delay the Persians. They were also fighting for time to gather their forces elsewhere, to prepare for a more decisive battle. This brings us to the Battle of Salamis, which occurred shortly after Thermopylae. It was here that the Greek navy, with its smaller and more agile ships, managed to defeat the Persians decisively. Without the sacrifice at Thermopylae, the Persian forces might have overwhelmed the Greeks before the naval victory was possible. In this sense, the battle at Thermopylae can be seen as part of a much larger strategy, one that goes beyond the immediate battlefield and into the broader war effort. The narrative of Thermopylae, however, has taken on a mythic quality over the centuries. The number 300 has become a symbol of heroic defiance, and Leonidas's story has been immortalized not just as a historical account, but as a cornerstone of Western ideals of honor and courage. But how much of this mythology is fact and how much is fiction? Ancient sources, such as Herodotus, give us accounts of the battle, but even he had to rely on second-hand accounts, and his own biases are evident in the way he describes the Persian forces. His writings raise further questions. Did he exaggerate certain aspects of the battle for dramatic effect? Were the Persian forces truly as large as the Greeks claimed, or were the numbers inflated as part of the heroic narrative? How much of the story has been altered by generations of poets, dramatists, and historians seeking to make the battle even more legendary? There are also accounts that suggest that there may have been more to the battle than we've been told. Some historians suggest that there were more complex political and military alliances between various Greek city-states than we fully understand. For example, the role of Thebes, often considered a traitorous city for its collaboration with the Persians, is often downplayed in the traditional narrative. What role did Thebes play in the events leading up to Thermopylae, and how might their involvement have influenced the outcome of the battle? Perhaps the most striking mystery of all is how Thermopylae continues to resonate with us today. Why does this small, bloody conflict, one that was ultimately a defeat, still hold such sway over the imagination? The tale of 300 Spartans fighting to the last man has become a symbol not only of sacrifice but of the unyielding human spirit in the face of overwhelming odds. But what does this myth tell us about the way we view courage and duty? And how much of our understanding of Thermopylae is shaped by modern sensibilities rather than the reality of what occurred? In the end, the Battle of Thermopylae, while celebrated as a pivotal moment in ancient history, is also a puzzle, a moment where fact and myth are tangled together in a way that defies easy resolution. The courage of the Spartan warriors, the strategic brilliance of Leonidas, and the desperation of the Persian forces all create an enduring narrative that is larger than life. But even today, we are left with questions that may never be fully answered. What motivated those who fought and died there? What happened in those final bloody hours? And, perhaps most intriguingly, what parts of the story remain hidden in the shadow of time? The London hammer, a seemingly ordinary tool, may just be one of the most extraordinary and perplexing artifacts ever discovered. Found in 1936, the hammer was unearthed in the small town of London, Texas, embedded in a large block of sandstone. At first glance, it seems like an object one might expect to see on a simple workbench or in a toolbox. But there's something about this hammer, something about its age, that has puzzled scientists, archaeologists, and historians for decades. The hammer itself is a curious object. Made of iron, with a wooden handle, its craftsmanship suggests a high level of skill. It appears to be a typical 19th century tool, fitting neatly into the history of industrialization. Yet, what makes it so unusual is its context. The hammer was found deep within a rock formation estimated to be over 100 million years old, much older than the tool itself. How, then, could a man-made object, seemingly modern in design, be embedded within stone that dates back to a time when humans did not yet exist on Earth? The mystery grows when we consider the implications. If this hammer truly dates from the time it was found, if it really is from the 1800s, how did it come to be encased in such ancient rock? This enigma is what has captured the fascination of many. The location of its discovery, a limestone cliff along the banks of the Red Creek, appears to hold the key to the mystery. According to reports, the hammer was found by a local couple who were breaking apart a large piece of stone with the help of dynamite. What they found inside the rock was not just the hammer, but the embedded wooden handle, which had apparently been preserved in an unaltered state, despite being encased for an unimaginable length of time. The handle, which had been part of the hammer for over 100 years, had become fossilized, turning into a substance remarkably similar to coal, leaving behind a perfect impression of the wood grains. What makes this discovery even more puzzling is the age of the rock itself. Geologists who have examined the surrounding layers and the hammer's geological context agree that the rock is no less than 100 million years old, from the Cretaceous period, a time when humans were not even a blip on the evolutionary timeline. This fact alone raises the first of many questions. If the hammer was indeed created in the 1800s, how could it have ended up buried in such ancient stone? Was it placed there intentionally? Or is there some other unexplained phenomenon at play? The hammer's discovery was initially met with excitement. In a world where the boundaries of history and archaeology often feel well-defined, this artifact seemed to shatter those boundaries. Here was an object from the modern world, undeniably a product of human hands, entombed within rock that could not have been deposited until tens of millions of years after the hammer was crafted. The implications were staggering. How could a human object have ended up in geological strata so old? It suggested a radically different understanding of history, one in which human existence might stretch back far longer than conventional timelines suggest. And yet, despite the excitement, there are very few concrete answers. The hammer has not undergone the extensive scientific scrutiny one might expect for such a mysterious find. Some mainstream scientists argue that the hammer was most likely dropped or discarded in more recent times, perhaps during construction or some other industrial activity. They suggest that the surrounding stone may have formed around the hammer through a process of mineralization, or by the infiltration of minerals into the surrounding environment over time, giving the impression that the hammer was ancient. However, this explanation doesn't satisfactorily account for the fossilized wooden handle, which appears to be far older than any reasonable explanation for its preservation. There are other more speculative ideas, each with its own set of assumptions and implications. Some suggest that the hammer may have been transported into the ancient rock formation during a major geological event, perhaps an earthquake or volcanic eruption, which could have caused it to become embedded deep within the earth. This would, however, require an unlikely series of events, including the perfect conditions for the fossilization of the wood and the hammer's preservation intact rather than disintegration or decay. Others have entertained more fringe theories. Some claim that the hammer is evidence of an advanced civilization that existed long before recorded history, one capable of making tools with technology similar to that of the 19th century. Could there have been humans living millions of years ago, lost to time, whose advanced tools were buried beneath the earth during an ancient cataclysm? If true, this would rewrite our entire understanding of human history, suggesting that civilization as we know it could have had far older roots than we believe. Another possibility, though more difficult to prove, is the notion of time anomalies or unknown natural processes that could allow for the coexistence of objects from different eras within the same geological strata. Could some force, unexplained by conventional science, have caused a break in the timeline of the Earth, allowing objects from the modern age to become mingled with rocks and fossils from the distant past? Yet, despite all the speculation, we are left with very few solid answers. The hammer is now housed in a private collection, with only a few limited studies being conducted over the years. The mainstream scientific community has largely dismissed the artifact, explaining it as a fluke or a misunderstanding, but those who study it closely, whether with skepticism or fascination, are often left with more questions than answers. How could such an object be preserved in such a manner? Could there be a scientific explanation that we have not yet discovered? Or is it possible that the London hammer is a relic from a lost chapter of Earth's history, one that challenges the very nature of time and our understanding of the past? For now, the mystery of the London hammer remains unsolved, a tantalizing enigma tucked away in the annals of history. As long as the artifact exists, it continues to stir the imagination of those who seek answers. And perhaps, in some distant future, the key to its origins will be uncovered, maybe through the discovery of other artifacts or the advancement of technology that can shed light on its true past. Until then, the hammer sits in quiet obscurity, its mysteries still veiled, waiting for the day when we may finally understand how and why it was left buried in ancient stone. As with so many unexplained phenomena, the answers may lie just beyond our reach, tempting us to peer deeper into the mysteries of the past and wonder, what other secrets remain hidden, waiting to be uncovered? In the early hours of June 30th, 1908, something extraordinary and devastating occurred deep in the Siberian wilderness. At precisely 7:17 a.m. local time, an explosion, greater than any blast known to humankind at the time, shook the earth. For miles around, the skies darkened, as if the sun had been briefly eclipsed by a storm of fire. Yet, there was no storm, no visible object, no clear cause. This was the Tunguska Event, a catastrophe whose origins remain one of the greatest mysteries of the 20th century. The location was remote. The Tunguska River Basin, a desolate region in central Siberia, with no major settlements for hundreds of miles. The forest was dense with pine, larch, and birch trees, sprawling across the landscape in thick, untouched expanses. The explosion flattened more than 2,000 square kilometers of forest, knocking over an estimated 80 million trees. The shockwave from the blast was so powerful that it was felt as far as 1,000 kilometers away, in cities like St. Petersburg and Moscow. It's said that windows rattled and buildings swayed, as if the earth itself had been shaken to its core. Despite the enormity of the event, no crater was left behind. No pieces of wreckage, no smoke, no remnants of a falling meteorite or comet, nothing that could immediately explain the destruction. There were no eyewitnesses who could definitively describe the object or phenomenon that caused such devastation, for the area was sparsely populated, and those who were closest to the explosion reported only a blinding flash of light and a thunderous roar that preceded the devastation. A strange silence followed, with the sky apparently filled with ash and smoke, as if the very air itself had been ignited. To this day, scientists remain divided on the cause of the Tunguska event. but the mystery only deepens with every theory that is proposed. The most widely accepted explanation is that the explosion was caused by the airburst of a comet or asteroid. As the object entered Earth's atmosphere, it disintegrated at an altitude of about 5 to 10 kilometers, releasing an immense amount of energy, comparable to a 10 to 15 megaton bomb. It's thought that the object, likely composed of ice and rock, broke apart and released its energy without ever impacting the Earth's surface. This theory explains the massive shock wave and the flattened trees, as well as the lack of a crater or direct impact site. However, the absence of tangible evidence, like fragments of an asteroid or meteorite, has led some to question this explanation. Why, if a comet or asteroid exploded in the atmosphere, would there be no remnants left to examine? And if it was a comet, why was no debris found at the site of the blast? Some have speculated that the object could have been a particularly dense asteroid, composed of metal rather than ice, which would have been far less likely to leave behind a visible trail of debris. Yet, the lack of any physical trace still remains an anomaly. Others have turned to more unconventional theories, seeking answers beyond the ordinary realm of science. Some have speculated that the Tunguska Event was the result of a natural phenomenon, such as a massive lightning strike or an explosion of natural gas from the Earth's surface. While intriguing, these theories seem unlikely given the scale of the explosion and the absence of any such traces in the surrounding area. It's hard to imagine that a lightning strike or gas explosion could cause such widespread destruction without leaving behind more concrete evidence. One of the more controversial ideas, however, delves into the realms of fringe science and speculation. Some theorists suggest that the explosion was not caused by a natural object at all, but rather by a test of a secret weapon. Could it have been the result of an early Soviet or foreign experiment with advanced weaponry? Something far beyond the capabilities of the time. After all, the explosion occurred just a few years before World War I, and global tensions were beginning to rise. Though there is no concrete evidence to support this theory, it raises questions about the potential for hidden technologies and their potential use in covert operations. Yet, the mystery of the Tunguska Event may not be so easily explained by the known laws of physics and the typical objects of our universe. More fringe theories have entertained the possibility that the explosion was caused by something not of this Earth. Some have suggested that it could have been the result of a UFO or extraterrestrial craft, either crashing into the atmosphere or disintegrating as it approached Earth. The idea of a visitor from another world causing such a spectacular, unexplainable event fits neatly into our human fascination with the unknown, but there is no solid evidence to support such an extraordinary claim. Still, the absence of clear answers leaves room for such ideas to persist in popular discourse. In the years since the explosion, various expeditions have been launched to study the aftermath of the Tunguska Event. The Soviet Union sent scientific teams in the 1920s and 1930s to investigate, but the area was difficult to reach, and the devastation made it nearly impossible to locate any clear evidence. Only much later, in the 1950s, did a team of scientists finally reach the site and confirm the extent of the damage. Millions of trees uprooted or burned, the forest floor scorched, and no visible evidence of the object that caused it all. Over the decades, numerous expeditions have attempted to locate the precise location where the object may have fallen. Many have searched for fragments of the supposed comet or asteroid, but to no avail. Even though some small meteorites have been found in the general vicinity, none match the scale of the destruction. The mystery of the missing object, whether it was an asteroid, comet, or something else entirely, remains unsolved. More than a century after the Tunguska Event, scientists are still grappling with the question: what exactly caused this cataclysmic explosion? Could it be the result of something we have yet to fully understand? An event that challenges the known laws of physics? Or was it simply an extraordinary collision of natural forces, a comet or asteroid, the likes of which Earth has seen before, but never with such a dramatic impact. The Tunguska Event remains one of Earth's most baffling mysteries, a singular moment in history that forces us to confront the boundaries of our knowledge, to ask questions that remain unanswered. What exactly happened that day in Siberia? And what other mysteries might lie hidden in the vast, unexplored corners of the Earth waiting to be uncovered? In the dense jungles of the Congo River Basin, deep within the heart of Central Africa, there exists a place that few have ever ventured, an almost impenetrable expanse of forest and marshland that harbors one of the most enduring mysteries of modern exploration, the elusive creature known as Mokele-Mbembe. Descriptions of this beast have been whispered among the local tribes for centuries, and sightings of it have been reported sporadically by explorers, scientists, and adventurers. But the question remains: what exactly is this mysterious creature? Could it be a surviving dinosaur, an undiscovered species, or something entirely different? The name Mokele-Mbembe is derived from the Lingala language, spoken by the people in the Congo region, and roughly translates to "one who stops the flow of rivers." This name alone evokes a sense of power, suggesting that the creature is capable of causing massive disruption in its environment. The creature is often described as being similar in appearance to the long-extinct sauropod dinosaurs, like the Apatosaurus or Brachiosaurus, with a long neck and tail, and a massive, bulky body. Local legends speak of the creature's enormous size, with reports of it being as tall as a tree and having a long, serpentine neck capable of reaching into the tallest trees to graze. Some accounts even describe the beast as having a small head resembling that of a hippopotamus, with a trunk-like snout. The stories of Mokele-Mbembe are not just fabrications. The creature has been mentioned in various historical accounts, from the diaries of early European explorers to the records of missionaries who visited the Congo during the 19th and early 20th centuries. However, it is the more recent investigations, both scientific and adventurous, that have reignited interest in the creature. In the late 19th century, the explorer Pierre-Simon Pallas mentioned strange reports from the local tribes about a giant water monster that could easily swamp a boat with its massive form. Pallas, however, dismissed these claims, attributing them to exaggerations of the locals. Over time, similar reports surfaced from different sources, but it wasn't until the early 20th century that the Mokele-Mbembe began to captivate the attention of zoologists and cryptozoologists, individuals who specialize in the study of hidden or unknown animals. In the 1980s, an expedition led by the American naturalist William Gibbons set out to investigate the reports of Mokele-Mbembe sightings in the Congo Basin. Though they returned without solid evidence of the creature's existence, their journey provided valuable clues. They encountered numerous accounts from local villagers who spoke in detail about the creature, describing its behavior, appearance, and even its habitat. According to these testimonies, Mokele-Mbembe was believed to inhabit the remote and largely inaccessible swamps and rivers of the Congo Basin, particularly around the rivers Lualaba and Lake Tele, where dense vegetation and foggy waters conceal its movements. The creature's reported habitat, a land of fog and secrecy, only added to the mystery. Despite the intrigue surrounding Mokele-Mbembe, no concrete physical evidence has ever been found to confirm its existence. In the years following Gibbons' expedition, several other researchers and teams set out on similar quests, but each returned empty-handed, further complicating the mystery. No carcasses, bones, or any direct proof of the creature's presence have ever been uncovered. What's more perplexing is the apparent lack of physical evidence of such a massive creature in a region known to be teeming with life. If Mokele-Mbembe were truly an animal of the size and description claimed by locals, how could it have gone undetected for so long? Could it be that the creature is so elusive, hiding so deeply within the forest that even modern science, equipped with satellite imagery and drones, has failed to find it. As the mystery deepens, the theories multiply, each one offering a potential explanation, yet none of them provide a definitive answer. The most straightforward theory suggests that Mokele-Mbembe could be a relict species of dinosaur, specifically a sauropod, that managed to survive into modern times by retreating into the remote regions of the Congo Basin. The idea that dinosaurs may have survived extinction, either in isolated pockets or in deep, unexplored regions of the Earth, is not entirely unprecedented. Over the years, paleontologists have discovered living fossils, such as the coelacanth, a fish thought to have been extinct for millions of years, which was found off the coast of South Africa in 1938. Could Mokele-Mbembe be another example of an ancient species holding on to life in the most unlikely of places? Despite the alluring nature of this theory, there are numerous challenges to its credibility. For one, modern paleontology suggests that the vast majority of the Earth's fauna evolved in ways that would make the survival of a sauropod-like creature virtually impossible. The environmental conditions necessary for a dinosaur of such size to thrive, large amounts of food, a suitable habitat, and a low rate of predation, are simply not present in the Congo Basin. Additionally, the creature's reported behavior, such as its feeding habits, doesn't entirely align with what we know about ancient dinosaurs. Could a prehistoric species really still be roaming the Earth in the form of a solitary, reclusive creature? Alternatively, there are those who dismiss the idea of a dinosaur entirely, suggesting that the creature might be a previously unknown species of living animal, a giant, amphibious reptile, or a mammal whose existence has been overlooked by modern science. The rainforest and swamp ecosystems of Central Africa are vast, and many undiscovered species of flora and fauna remain hidden within the tangled thickets. Perhaps Mokele-Mbembe is an undiscovered species that, for whatever reason, has evolved in a way that defies conventional understanding of the animal kingdom. As improbable as the dinosaur theory may seem to some, there are other explanations that don't require the animal to be an ancient survivor. One speculative theory proposes that Mokele-Mbembe might be a member of the Elephantidae family, a distant relative of the elephant that has adapted to its environment in ways we cannot yet comprehend. But could an elephant-like creature have gone unnoticed for centuries in such a populated region? The possibility, though tantalizing, is hard to reconcile with the known flora and fauna of the Congo. Yet, perhaps the most perplexing theory of all is the idea that Mokele-Mbembe is not a biological entity at all, but rather a cultural or spiritual phenomenon. Some believe that the creature is part of the folklore of the Congo Basin's indigenous tribes, and that its existence may be a symbol or a manifestation of collective cultural memory rather than a physical animal. Could Mokele-Mbembe be more than just a creature of flesh and bone? Could it represent something deeper, a force of nature that transcends the boundaries of the physical world? Though science has yet to provide any definitive answers, the mystery of Mokele-Mbembe endures. The creature continues to haunt the jungles of the Congo River Basin, a symbol of the unknown and the unexplained. It's a reminder that there are still places on Earth where the lines between myth and reality blur, where ancient legends persist alongside modern discoveries. What, then, are we to make of this ancient enigma? As more expeditions are mounted and new technologies are developed to explore these untouched corners of the world, it seems that the mystery of Mokele-Mbembe is far from over. Perhaps one day, science will uncover what lurks in the shadows of the Congo Basin. Or perhaps the creature will remain hidden, a ghost in the mist, waiting to reveal itself when the time is right. As night falls over the sleepy town of Beale, Virginia, there's an eerie quietness that seems to hang in the air. Far from being an ordinary rural community, this place is linked to one of the most intriguing and puzzling mysteries in American history, the Beale Ciphers. These cryptic messages, which date back to the early 19th century, have captured the imaginations of historians, cryptographers, and treasure hunters alike. Their allure is undeniable: a hidden fortune, buried somewhere in the wilderness of Virginia, with clues scattered across 3 encoded texts. But for over 150 years, the secret remains locked within the ciphers, eluding even the most brilliant minds. The story begins in 1819, when a man named Thomas Beale arrived in Virginia. According to Beale's tale, he and a group of adventurers had discovered a vast fortune in gold, silver, and jewels in the western mountains of the United States. With this treasure in hand, Beale and his companions, afraid of being robbed, decided to hide it away in a secret location, one that would remain undiscovered until someone could decode a series of mysterious messages. In a letter, Beale reportedly described the treasure's location and the method by which it could be found. But the letter was encrypted, and the key to the code was nowhere to be found. Beale's first cipher, known as Cipher Number 1, is the key to locating the treasure. It is said to contain the exact location of the buried goods, but it has baffled everyone who has tried to crack it. The cipher consists of a series of numbers, each presumably corresponding to a letter in the alphabet. Yet, despite numerous attempts over the years, no one has ever been able to fully decipher the message. Some believe the code is a complex number-to-letter substitution cipher, while others think it might involve a more obscure form of cryptography. The deeper one digs into the cipher, the more layers of complexity seem to unfold. Adding to the mystery is the fact that 2 additional ciphers were discovered along with the first one. Cipher number 2 is said to describe the contents of the treasure, listing the specific items, gold, silver, and jewels, that the adventurers had hoarded away. Cipher number 3 supposedly identifies the names of the people involved in the treasure hunt. Yet, despite years of investigation by amateur and professional cryptographers, none of these ciphers have been fully decoded. The Beale ciphers were first brought to light in 1885, when a man named James B. Ward published a pamphlet about the mystery, claiming to have found the original letter that Beale had written. The pamphlet contained the first cipher, along with Ward's own analysis and speculation about its meaning. At first, the document seemed like a curiosity, another piece of local folklore that would fade with time. But as Ward's pamphlet spread, interest in the ciphers exploded. Cryptographers began attempting to decode the messages, but with little success. One of the most common theories about the ciphers is that they use a form of book cipher, in which the numbers represent words or letters based on their position in a specific book or document. The most popular candidate for the book used in the cipher is the Declaration of Independence, a document with a fixed and predictable structure. Using this method, some have been able to make partial progress on Cipher Number 1, but the full translation has never been achieved. Other scholars, however, have suggested that the cipher might be based on a completely different text, one that has yet to be identified. Could the Beale ciphers be an elaborate hoax? Some skeptics believe that Beale's tale is simply a work of fiction, a creation of James B. Ward to sell his pamphlet and capture the public's imagination. According to this theory, the ciphers were never meant to be solved, and the treasure may never have existed at all. The fact that the ciphers are still unsolved after more than a century, despite numerous attempts by some of the best cryptographers in the world, certainly adds fuel to this suspicion. However, the treasure itself has never been found, and the promise of untold wealth buried somewhere in the hills of Virginia continues to draw treasure hunters to the area. According to local legend, many people have spent years combing the forests around Beale, hoping to stumble upon a clue or a trace of the hidden fortune. Yet no one has succeeded. Could it be that the treasure is still out there, waiting for the right person to crack the code? Or could the ciphers be part of a much larger puzzle, one whose full solution still eludes us? In addition to the theories surrounding the ciphers themselves, there's another layer of mystery that makes the Beale story even more compelling. In the 1800s, treasure hunts and coded messages were not uncommon, especially during a time when explorers and adventurers were still mapping the vast unknown territories of America. Was it possible that Thomas Beale, a man of his time, might have been influenced by earlier traditions of hidden wealth, or even by ancient practices of encoding secrets? After all, the history of cryptography stretches back thousands of years, with civilizations such as the Egyptians and the Phoenicians known for their elaborate methods of concealing information. Could the Beale ciphers be the modern-day equivalent of an ancient code? Another compelling possibility is that the Beale ciphers are part of a larger global tradition of hidden treasures and coded messages. Could there be other similar ciphers scattered across the world, waiting to be uncovered and solved? The idea that the Beale ciphers may connect to an ancient network of treasure-hiding secrets, passed down through generations, opens up even more tantalizing possibilities. Despite all the theories, one thing is clear. The Beale ciphers remain an unsolved riddle, a mystery wrapped in a code, with no definitive answers in sight. The treasure may lie hidden, or it may simply be the stuff of legend. Perhaps the answers lie not in the ciphers themselves, but in the mystery of why they continue to captivate the imagination. What is it about hidden treasure, especially one that has never been found, that resonates so deeply within us? As the years continue to pass, the Beale ciphers stand as a testament to the human desire for discovery, adventure, and the thrill of the unknown. And so, the mystery endures. Will the ciphers ever be decoded? Will the treasure ever be found? Or will the Beale ciphers remain an enduring enigma, inviting us to ponder the nature of secrets, codes, and the unexplained wonders that lie just beyond our grasp? Only time will tell. As we look up at the night sky, vast and infinite, it's easy to feel both awe and insignificance. For millennia, humans have gazed at the stars, wondering about the mysteries that lie beyond. But what if, among those stars, something has been watching us? Something hidden, perhaps for centuries, but now drawing the attention of those who seek to understand the unknown. One such enigma, a mystery suspended in space, is the tale of the Black Knight satellite, an object whose origins and purpose remain shrouded in speculation and intrigue. The Black Knight satellite is said to be an artificial object, perhaps even of extraterrestrial origin, orbiting Earth in a highly irregular path. Its story dates back to the early 20th century, and it has been associated with numerous sightings, radio signals, and shadowy claims of secret government knowledge. Yet the truth remains elusive, as science and speculation continue to grapple with the evidence, or lack thereof. The first recorded mention of the Black Knight satellite came in 1954, when Nikola Tesla, the pioneering inventor, reportedly picked up strange radio signals that seemed to emanate from somewhere beyond Earth. Tesla, a man known for his groundbreaking work in electrical engineering and wireless communication, believed these signals to be from an extraterrestrial source. Was Tesla, decades ahead of his time, unknowingly discovering the presence of a satellite that had been in orbit for centuries? Or was it simply an anomaly in the radio waves, a misinterpretation of his equipment? Yet the story of the Black Knight doesn't truly gain momentum until the late 1950s and early 1960s, when space exploration was in full swing. As satellites began to be launched into Earth's orbit, including the famous Sputnik 1 in 1957, a growing number of reports and photographs began to surface, suggesting that something had been orbiting our planet long before human-made satellites. Some of these photographs seemed to show a dark, angular object, unlike anything Earth-bound engineers had ever designed. Was this the Black Knight satellite? An object that had somehow eluded human detection for centuries? The most famous piece of evidence linking the Black Knight to our modern understanding of space came in 1960, when American astronauts aboard a U.S. Navy satellite reportedly spotted an unusual object in orbit. The astronauts described the object as a dark, triangular shape that appeared to be moving in an irregular pattern. This brief sighting raised more questions than answers, prompting further speculation. Some theorists believed the object was an ancient satellite, possibly sent to Earth by extraterrestrial beings, while others suggested it could be a remnant of a lost civilization, a relic left behind by a forgotten race. Yet, despite extensive attempts to photograph or study the object, no concrete evidence of its existence has been produced. In the decades that followed, the Black Knight satellite became a fixture of UFO lore, attracting both believers and skeptics alike. As the space race intensified, with the United States and the Soviet Union launching a myriad of satellites, the Black Knight was often cited as evidence that extraterrestrial civilizations had been monitoring Earth long before humans had even reached the stars. In the 1990s, some even pointed to mysterious radio signals, like the WOW signal detected in 1977, as further proof that the Black Knight might be part of a broader extraterrestrial surveillance program. But what makes the Black Knight so tantalizing is the complete absence of definitive proof. There is no concrete photograph or video that conclusively shows the object. Instead, what we have are a series of blurry images and vague descriptions, many of which could be dismissed as optical illusions or misidentifications of natural phenomena, such as space debris or asteroids. One such photograph that fuels the mystery comes from NASA itself. In 1998, the STS-88 mission, which was the first space shuttle mission to the International Space Station, ISS, captured an image of what appeared to be a dark object orbiting the Earth. The image, taken by the astronauts, shows a triangular shape against the backdrop of the Earth's curvature, leading some UFO enthusiasts to claim that this was the elusive Black Knight satellite. Others, however, argue that this image is nothing more than a piece of space debris or a shadow created by the camera's lens. What makes the Black Knight so compelling is the gap between the evidence and the explanations. Could an object really have been orbiting Earth for hundreds or even thousands of years, only to be discovered in the 20th century? Could the Black Knight be a piece of technology from an ancient civilization, perhaps even an extraterrestrial one, that has been silently watching humanity's progress for millennia? Or is it simply an artifact of modern-day perception, a product of our imagination and our tendency to find patterns in the unknown? There are, of course, more speculative theories. Some have suggested that the Black Knight might not be a physical object at all, but rather a form of surveillance technology sent by an advanced alien species to observe and monitor the human race. This theory plays into the broader narrative of alien visitation, one that has been popularized in science fiction and UFO lore. What if the Black Knight is not just an ancient satellite, but a living observer, perhaps even capable of communication? Could it be waiting patiently for humanity to reach a certain level of technological advancement before making contact? Others propose more grounded, though still mysterious, possibilities. Some suggest that the Black Knight could be a top-secret military project, an unknown satellite sent into orbit by the United States or the Soviet Union during the Cold War. The strange, seemingly random orbit of the object could be explained by the erratic paths taken by classified military satellites, which were designed to avoid detection. But this, too, raises questions. If the Black Knight was a military satellite, why would it have remained hidden for so long? Why, after decades of space exploration, is it only now that it has captured public attention? Despite the numerous theories, none of them provide a definitive answer to the mystery of the Black Knight satellite. The evidence is scant, and much of what we have is open to interpretation. Could it be that the Black Night is a relic from another time, perhaps even a time long before humanity had reached the stars? Or is it a figment of our collective imagination, fueled by a desire for the unknown, a desire to believe that we are not alone in the universe? The question remains, is the Black Night satellite real? And if it is, what does it mean for our understanding of space, technology, and the nature of life beyond Earth? As with many of the world's most enduring mysteries, the answers are elusive, hidden in the vastness of space and the depths of human curiosity. As we continue to look to the stars, the Black Night satellite stands as a symbol of the mysteries that await us. What secrets does it hold? What might it reveal if we could only unlock its true purpose? And perhaps most haunting of all, what is it that has kept this object hidden for so long in the quiet expanse of the universe? Only time and the continuing exploration of space will tell. Nestled in the dense forests of Minnesota, near the northern shores of Lake Superior, there exists a peculiar and unsettling natural phenomenon known as the Devil's Kettle, a place where the forces of nature have long baffled scientists, leaving behind a mystery that refuses to be explained. The story of the Devil's Kettle begins not in ancient myths, but with a simple, curious question. Where does the water go? At first glance, the Devil's Kettle seems like just another picturesque spot in Judge C.R. Magny State Park. A small, tranquil waterfall known for its unique feature, a large, round hole, an ominous kettle, carved into the rock face by the flowing waters of the Bruley River. Water flows into this hole, but unlike typical waterfalls that plunge down into a river or pool, this water disappears, vanishing without a trace. And no one has been able to trace it. The river continues to flow downstream, but the water from the kettle? No one knows where it goes. For years, the phenomenon puzzled scientists. The Bruley River, once a relatively unremarkable watercourse, had become the focus of strange experiments, curious tourists, and the subject of many unsolved mysteries. Yet, despite countless attempts to discover where the water leads, the secret of the Devil's Kettle remains locked away in the dark recesses of the earth. It is, for all intents and purposes, an unsolvable riddle in the heart of nature. The basic facts are this. The Devil's Kettle is part of a waterfall that has two outlets, one that flows in a conventional manner into a stream, and the other, this peculiar kettle, which swallows water into its depths. The first outlet, the normal waterfall, plunges into a visible pool below. The second, the mysterious kettle, behaves differently. The water simply disappears. No river, stream, or even underground tunnel has been found to channel this water. It vanishes completely, as if swallowed by the earth itself. But what is the nature of this disappearance? In 1999, scientists from the University of Minnesota began an investigation trying to solve the riddle by dropping dye into the kettle to trace its course. The idea was simple. If the dye appeared somewhere downstream, the water from the kettle could be tracked to its final destination. But despite their best efforts, the dye never showed up. It did not appear anywhere in the river, nor did it seep out of the ground where the kettle opened into. No trace of the dye was found, even after a month of searching. The question was increasingly asked, could this water be vanishing into an underground network that no one has discovered yet? One theory proposed that the water might be traveling underground, through a complex network of caverns or fissures beneath the surface, possibly even toward an underground lake or cave system deep within the earth. The problem, however, is that there has been no definitive evidence of such a subterranean water route. Despite the extensive geological surveys and mapping of the surrounding area, no tunnels have been found that could explain the water's disappearance. Yet some local legends tell a different story. The name Devil's Kettle itself seems to hint at something darker. According to local folklore, the kettle was believed to be a place of mystical powers, where the waters vanished into an abyss leading to another realm. Some stories suggest that the Kettle was a portal to the underworld, or that the water was swallowed by a devil or dark spirit, never to return. While these tales might sound far-fetched, they persist as part of the oral history of the region, blending nature's beauty with eerie mystery. In contrast to these mystical explanations, some scientific minds have suggested that the Devil's Kettle is simply an unusual result of the geological and hydrological processes at play in the region. Over thousands of years, the river has carved deep into the rock, creating unusual channels and pathways that allow water to sink out of sight. The force of the water in the kettle might be contributing to erosion in an unpredictable way, leading it to disappear underground in a path that has yet to be fully understood. Yet this theory remains speculative, as no clear evidence of a connection between the kettle and the region's underground waterways has been found. Even more perplexing are the strange microorganisms that have been found in the waters of the kettle. In 2001, scientists collected water samples from both the Brule River and the kettle. They discovered that the two bodies of water contained distinctly different microbial life, with unique species thriving in the water that flowed into the kettle, compared to the water in the river. Could this be a clue that the kettle connects to some entirely different, isolated environment beneath the earth? Or is it simply a result of the unique chemical makeup of the water in this location? The answers remain elusive. The theories do not end there. Some have speculated that the water could be entering a deep aquifer, one that may be sealed off from the rest of the river system. The aquifer, they suggest, could be so deep that no natural flow is apparent at the surface. But once again, despite tests and probing, the aquifer theory remains unproven. In fact, some believe that this type of geological structure simply doesn't exist in the area. The fact that the water seems to vanish so completely, without any trace, adds to the intrigue, leading some to consider more outlandish ideas. One of the more fringe theories suggests that the Devil's Kettle could be the site of a natural energy vortex, akin to what some believe to be a magnetic anomaly or electromagnetic field disturbance. These phenomena, while not entirely unexplained in certain parts of the world, could hypothetically cause water to behave in ways that contradict the laws of physics. However, mainstream science has yet to provide concrete evidence of such anomalies in the area. But what if none of these theories is entirely correct? Could it be that the mystery of the Devil's Kettle is not simply a matter of geology or water systems, but something deeper, something not yet understood by science? Is it possible that this phenomenon remains unsolved not because we don't have the answers, but because we haven't yet asked the right questions? As you stand on the edge of the Devil's Kettle, gazing into the abyss, it's impossible not to wonder. What if the answer is just beyond the surface, waiting to be discovered? Or perhaps the real mystery lies in the fact that it has remained hidden for so long, an enigma that nature itself has concealed. After all, some mysteries are meant to remain unsolved, standing as a reminder that there are still corners of our world where even the most probing minds can find no answer. What lies beneath the surface of the Devil's Kettle? Is it the result of natural processes or something more? The mystery continues, and the water keeps flowing, as though beckoning us to seek an answer, or to let it remain as it is, a question without an answer. The Devil's Kettle remains one of the most haunting and captivating mysteries of nature, defying explanation and leaving us with more questions than we had before. What might still be hidden? Deep within the golden sands of Egypt lies one of the most fascinating and perplexing archaeological sites of the ancient world, the SAQQARA necropolis. Known primarily for the step pyramid of Djoser, this vast burial ground has long been the focus of historical and archaeological study. Yet, within this ancient city of the dead, beneath the crumbling tombs and scattered remains, lies a mystery so large, so enigmatic, that it has left scientists, archaeologists, and historians questioning the very foundation of our understanding of ancient Egypt. Below the surface of SAQQARA, beneath the Serapeum, colossal stone tombs lie hidden, an extraordinary discovery that continues to confound experts even decades after its uncovering. The Serapeum of SAQQARA, located about 30 kilometers south of Cairo, was initially thought to be a site dedicated to the worship of the Greek-Egyptian god Serapis during the Ptolemaic period. However, when a group of explorers, led by the French archaeologist Auguste Mariette, began excavating the site in 1850, they uncovered something far more ancient. Buried deep within the earth, they discovered a network of subterranean galleries lined with large, intricately carved stone sarcophagi, massive burial chambers that have since become one of Egypt's most enduring mysteries. The sarcophagi found within the SAQQARA Serapeum are unlike anything seen in other Egyptian tombs. These stone boxes, some weighing as much as 70 tons, were crafted from single blocks of granite, a material that is not only difficult to carve but almost impossible to move with the technology available to ancient civilizations. It is said that these massive stone coffins were intended to hold the remains of sacred bulls, specifically the Apis bulls, considered divine creatures in ancient Egyptian religion. The bulls were believed to be the earthly manifestation of the god Ptah, and their death was seen as a major event, with elaborate rituals surrounding their burial. Yet the sheer size of the sarcophagi raises immediate questions. How were these massive stones quarried, transported, and then meticulously placed in underground chambers? The sheer engineering feat required to create such an elaborate burial site seems far ahead of its time, pushing the boundaries of what historians thought ancient Egyptians were capable of. It would have required not only extraordinary labor forces, but also knowledge of engineering and construction that seemed beyond the reach of the era. Moreover, the method of construction itself is puzzling. Most of the tombs in the SAQQARA complex show signs of cutting and chipping using rudimentary tools, yet these massive sarcophagi appear to have been created with a level of precision that defies the tools believed to have been in use during the period. Some even question if copper chisels, the most common tool of the time, were capable of such intricate carving in such a dense material. Could it be that the ancient Egyptians had lost or hidden knowledge of advanced technology capable of such feats? Or were there other forces at play? The mystery deepens as we consider these unanswered questions about how the tombs were constructed and why their contents were so meticulously concealed. The interior of the tombs themselves presents further mysteries. The sheer craftsmanship of the sarcophagi is astonishing. Smooth, near-perfectly symmetrical carvings with precise geometrical patterns and decorations adorn the surfaces. But what is more mysterious is the absence of human remains. Despite being elaborate burial sites for the sacred bulls, these enormous stone coffins have never contained the expected remains of the animals. Instead, the chambers were empty. Sometimes the coffins themselves had been sealed shut, and the remains of the bulls were never found. Were the bodies removed at some point in history, or were the sarcophagi symbolic rather than functional? In fact, the lack of human or animal remains has led to further speculation about the true purpose of these colossal tombs. Were they actually intended as tombs for the Apis bulls at all, or could they have served a different purpose entirely? The possibility that these massive stone structures were more ceremonial than burial sites has given rise to numerous theories. Some experts believe that they might have been designed to represent an initiation ritual for priests or those involved in the religious practices surrounding the bulls, serving as symbolic representations of death and rebirth rather than actual burial places. Others suggest that the Serapeum was a place of immense spiritual significance, not only as a burial ground for the Apis bulls, but also as a sacred site for secret rituals that remain shrouded in mystery. The way in which the sarcophagi were arranged in long, narrow corridors, almost like a labyrinth, evokes a sense of a ritualistic path leading to some deeper spiritual truth or secret, a purpose lost to time. Could these stone tombs have been used for ceremonies that involved more than the physical remains of the bulls? Could they have been symbolic conduits to the divine, gateways to another realm, or even, as some have suggested, sites for astronomical observations linked to ancient Egyptian religious beliefs? Beyond the questions of construction and purpose, there is the undeniable mystique of the site itself. The Serapeum is often described as a place that exudes a strange energy, a quiet, eerie stillness that draws visitors into its depths. The size and arrangement of the tombs evoke a sense of awe, while the unanswered questions that surround them give rise to a haunting sense of the unknown. The site feels almost frozen in time, as if it holds a secret that modern archaeology has yet to uncover, or perhaps a secret that was meant to remain hidden. Despite the significant efforts of archaeologists and Egyptologists, the SAQQARA Serapeum has yielded few conclusive answers. The lack of direct evidence, combined with the peculiar nature of the tombs, suggests that we may be looking at a much older tradition or a culture with knowledge and practices lost to history. Could there be other, undiscovered tombs beneath the SAQQARA site? Tombs that have yet to be uncovered by modern archaeology, containing more clues to the mysteries of the ancient Egyptian world? The possibilities are endless, and as scientists continue to study the Serapeum, the questions only multiply. How were these massive stone sarcophagi created? What knowledge did the ancient Egyptians possess that allowed them to achieve such feats of engineering? And why have these tombs remained empty, with the bulls' bodies seemingly removed or never placed inside them? Could the answers lie in a forgotten chapter of Egyptian history, perhaps lost to time, or is there a hidden truth still waiting to be revealed? As the SAQQARA Serapeum stands in its quiet, mysterious majesty, it calls to those who seek answers and those willing to face the unknown. What is it that this ancient site still conceals? Could the tombs beneath SAQQARA's sands hold answers that will forever alter our understanding of ancient Egypt? Or will they remain, as they have for centuries, enigmatic and inscrutable? The mystery endures, urging us to look deeper, question further, and wonder what ancient secrets might still be waiting, buried beneath the sands of time. Tucked away along the windswept shores of North Carolina, beneath the soft whispers of the Atlantic breeze, lies the site of one of the most enduring mysteries in American history, the lost colony of Roanoke. To this day, the disappearance of its settlers remains an unsolved riddle, one that has intrigued historians, archaeologists, and mystery enthusiasts for centuries. In 1585, Sir Walter Raleigh established a colony on Roanoke Island, which was intended to be the first permanent English settlement in the New World. The colonists, around 100 men, women, and children, made their home on the island, establishing rudimentary structures and attempting to build a community in the untamed wilderness of America. However, just a few years later, the colony's fate took a mysterious turn. By the summer of 1587, a second group of settlers, including families led by John White, arrived to reinforce the original colony. However, upon White's return to England later that year for supplies, he was delayed by a series of unforeseen events, including the conflict between England and Spain. When he finally returned to Roanoke in 1590, he found the colony had vanished, leaving behind no trace of the settlers, only a single clue: the word Croatoan carved into a post. The island had been deserted. The homes were abandoned, the boats were gone, and there was no sign of struggle or violence. The only hint of the colonists' whereabouts was the cryptic inscription, leading some to believe that the settlers may have relocated to the nearby Croatoan island, named after a Native American tribe who had lived in the area. However, this theory has never been conclusively proven. What happened to the people of Roanoke? Did they simply move? Were they taken by the indigenous tribes, or perhaps succumb to disease, starvation, or other hardships in an unforgiving land? Or could there be an even stranger explanation lurking behind their disappearance? As we attempt to unravel the mystery, we are faced with a strange and elusive truth. No physical evidence has ever been found to suggest where the colonists went or what happened to them. No graves have been uncovered. No remains have been discovered. Only the solitary clue left on that post. The mystery of Roanoke is more than just an unexplained disappearance. It's a haunting reminder that history has its gaps, its unsolved questions, and its secrets waiting beneath the surface. The search for answers has led to a range of theories. Some believe that the settlers were taken by hostile Native American tribes, but no evidence of violent conflict or mass killings has ever been found. Others suggest that the colony's inhabitants may have been absorbed into nearby indigenous communities, particularly the Croatoans. But why, if they had simply joined the Croatoans, would they leave no trace, no word of their fate, and leave behind a message that might have been understood only by the English? The carving of the word Croatoan itself is curious. Why would it have been carved into the post in such a specific and deliberate way? Was it a signal, a message meant for White upon his return? Was it a clue to where the settlers had gone, or a symbol of something much more ominous? Some theorize that it was a desperate attempt by the colonists to communicate their location or fate, while others suggest it could have been a simple marker for future settlers who might have returned to the site. But the fact that no further messages were left behind creates a palpable sense of unease. Theories surrounding the lost colony have only grown more complex and speculative over time. One of the most popular but highly controversial theories involves the idea that the settlers may have become involved in an early form of mysterious time travel or supernatural phenomena. The suggestion that the disappearance of the settlers could have been linked to something otherworldly, whether in the form of an unexplained environmental event, unknown diseases, or something more fantastical, cannot be ruled out entirely, especially given the eerie absence of remains and the cryptic nature of the only surviving clue. In more recent decades, archaeological expeditions on Roanoke Island and nearby Croatoan Island have offered potential insights, yet no definitive answers have been found. In 2016, for instance, a team of archaeologists discovered a set of European-style artifacts, including metal tools and pottery fragments, on a remote part of Hatteras Island, just a few miles away from Roanoke. Could these be remnants left behind by the colonists? Were they indeed moved to Croatoan Island, as some scholars have suggested? Or did these artifacts originate from later visitors or even different cultural groups altogether? The search for the lost colony continues to this day, with various theories continuing to surface. Some now suggest that the settlers could have moved inland to establish new settlements beyond the reach of English explorers, or perhaps their fate was intertwined with the challenges of survival in a harsh and often unforgiving environment. Others believe that the answer lies in disease, perhaps a viral outbreak that wiped out the settlers and led to the abandonment of the colony. Adding another layer of complexity to the story, some researchers have pointed to the strange behavior of the Croatoan tribe. Historians have noted that the Croatoans were known to engage in cultural exchanges with the Europeans, and it's been suggested that there might have been a mutual understanding between the settlers and the tribe. Could the Croatoans have helped the settlers? Or did the settlers, perhaps desperate, suffering from hunger and disease, find refuge in the tribe and live among them for years, perhaps even integrating into their community without ever returning to the world of the English? Yet the ultimate question lingers. If the settlers did indeed relocate to Croatoan Island, Why leave the cryptic message, and why did no one ever find any further traces of them? Could the settlers have simply disappeared without leaving behind a clue to their fate? If the message on the post was meant for White, why didn't he search the island further upon his return, instead of leaving without further investigation? Were there forces at work, both human and natural, that obscured the truth, ensuring that the Roanoke mystery would never be fully solved? Despite centuries of inquiry, the disappearance of the Roanoke colony remains an open wound in the annals of history. It is a puzzle without a clear solution, a haunting riddle that beckons us with its silence, its unanswered questions, and its eerie symbolism. Perhaps the answers lie buried beneath the soil of Roanoke Island, or perhaps they lie beyond the grasp of history itself. In the end, the lost colony of Roanoke challenges us to face the mystery of the unknown, to confront the limits of our understanding of history, and to wonder what remains hidden, out of reach, out of time. The clues we have may only hint at the answer, but the truth itself, it seems, is still lost to the sands of time. As the sun sets over the sprawling ruins of Tenochtitlan, now Mexico City, there stands a relic, one of the most powerful symbols of the Aztec Empire. The Aztec Sun Stone, or Piedra del Sol, is a monument unlike any other. Massive in size and intricately carved, it rests quietly in the National Anthropology Museum, waiting to share its story. Or perhaps, with its complex symbols and ancient mysteries, it waits to remain silent, daring modern minds to unlock the secrets hidden in its stone. At a glance, it appears to be nothing more than a beautiful, circular calendar. Yet this stone, weighing nearly 25 tons and measuring 12 feet in diameter, is much more than just a tool for tracking time. The markings etched into its surface hint at a much deeper understanding of the cosmos, one that blends mythology, astronomy, and ritual into a single, imposing sculpture. Its existence raises profound questions. Why was such a monument created? What did it represent to the Aztecs? And what does it still reveal to us today? The Aztec Sun Stone is famously known for its intricate carvings that depict the 5 epochs of Aztec cosmology, a belief system that saw the world as having gone through different stages, each ruled by a different sun. The 5th sun, as depicted in the stone, was the one the Aztecs believed they were living under. But was the stone truly a calendar, or was it more? Some say it's a calendar of events, others say it's a depiction of cosmic cycles, and there are even those who claim it's a tool for understanding divine prophecy. Discovered in 1790 beneath the central square of Mexico City, the Sunstone has intrigued scholars and historians alike for centuries. The sheer scale of the monument suggests that the Aztec civilization placed incredible importance on it, yet no comprehensive written record exists explaining its precise purpose. For centuries, the stone has remained an enigma, provoking questions about the very nature of Aztec understanding of the universe. The symbolism etched into the stone is overwhelming. At its center lies the face of Tonatiuh, the Aztec sun god, whose fierce expression and outstretched tongue, often interpreted as symbolizing the demand for human sacrifice, command attention. Around this central face, there are complex patterns and carvings, each representing elements of Aztec mythology and their understanding of time and cosmology. But what makes this stone even more intriguing is the question, why was it so intricately carved, and why was it placed in the heart of the capital of Tenochtitlan? Was it simply a tool to mark the passage of time, or was it a ceremonial object designed to connect the Aztecs with the gods and the forces of nature? Could it have been an object used in rituals to understand the fate of their world, or to divine the future of their empire? Some theories suggest it may have been an ancient astronomical instrument used to track celestial movements and predict significant events. Its history of use is equally unclear. The stone may have originally been placed in the main plaza of Tenochtitlan, where it could have served as a focal point for ritualistic ceremonies. but it could have also been intended to commemorate the Aztec creation myth, a myth in which the gods themselves sacrificed their own blood to create the earth. Was the Aztec Sun Stone a way to remember that sacrifice? A testament to the ongoing struggle between life and death, or a symbol of divine intervention in the Aztec people's daily lives? Even its role as a calendar is uncertain. Some believe that the stone was used as a metaphysical clock, tracking not just time, but the cosmic cycles of creation. The stone features detailed marks for the 260-day Tonalpohualli, the ritual calendar used by the Aztecs, as well as markings that might correspond to important celestial phenomena, like the movements of Venus. But beyond this, the meaning of many of its inscriptions remains speculative at best. Was this calendar only about time? Or was it a deeper reflection of Aztec beliefs about creation, destruction, and rebirth? The mystery deepens when considering the relationship between the Sunstone and the vast mythology of the Aztec people. The 5 suns represent epochs of time, each presided over by a different god: Tezcatlipoca, Quetzalcoatl, Tlaloc, Chalchutlicue, and finally, Tonatiuh, the sun we know today. These gods governed the 4 previous worlds, which were destroyed in cataclysmic events. The Aztecs believed their world was destined to end as well, and that it was their duty to sustain the gods through human sacrifice. Could the Sunstone, with its intricate carvings, have been a ritual tool designed to predict or even control the fate of the 5th sun? Was it tied to the very notion of worlds colliding and transforming, as the ancient texts suggest? Some believe it might have been a guide to understanding the celestial battle between the forces of life and death. Among scholars and explorers, there are speculative theories about the Sunstone's true purpose. Could it have been part of an ancient astronomical observatory, marking the paths of the stars and planets with such precision that it could guide the Aztecs on journeys or provide divine omens? Or perhaps it was part of a larger ceremonial system involving sacrifice and the sun's movement, used to invoke favor from the gods for bountiful harvests and victorious wars. Some have even linked the Sunstone's intricate carvings to the idea of divine prophecy, suggesting that it was not only a marker of time, but a divination tool used by the Aztec priests to forecast the future. The inscriptions and their patterns might have been seen as portents, guiding the decisions of the emperor and his people in times of crisis. Were the markings on the stone messages from the gods, warning the Aztecs of impending destruction, or providing them with the means to prolong their civilization's survival? Perhaps one of the most chilling aspects of the Sunstone's mystery is that it speaks to a fundamental truth that the Aztecs were acutely aware of. Time, like life, is cyclical. The idea that the world would one day end, and that their actions, particularly their sacrifices, were necessary to sustain life, was a central belief of Aztec culture. Was the Aztec Sunstone a reflection of this endless cycle, a reminder of their place in the grand scheme of things, or a message of impending doom? It's this cyclical nature, this inevitable progression toward destruction and rebirth, that continues to fascinate us today. We may never know the true, exact purpose of the Aztec Sunstone. It may remain an impenetrable symbol of a civilization long gone, its true significance buried beneath centuries of interpretation and lost knowledge. But the questions it raises, about time, about gods, about prophecy, will continue to provoke our imaginations. Was it simply a tool for recording time, or did it represent something far greater? A metaphysical reflection of the human experience and the ways in which cultures grapple with life's most profound mysteries. As we stand before this monumental stone, its mysteries staring back at us in silent defiance, we are left with one undeniable conclusion. The truth of the Sunstone is something far greater than we may ever fully understand. What secrets does it still hold? And what other revelations might await us in the shadows of ancient civilizations, waiting to be uncovered when the time is right? The Atlantic Ocean, vast, unpredictable, and often unforgiving. It has seen the rise and fall of civilizations, the passage of countless ships, and the wreckage of many vessels, swallowed by its depths. Among the many tales of loss that the sea holds, one stands out as particularly baffling: the disappearance of the USS Cyclops. The USS Cyclops, a massive collier ship, was one of the United States Navy's largest vessels at the time, designed to transport coal for the fleet. On March 4, 1918, she set out from Barbados, bound for Baltimore, Maryland, under the command of Captain George W. Worley. She was carrying a cargo of nearly 11,000 tons of manganese ore, a highly valuable mineral at the time, and a crew of 309 men. The ship was fully equipped, heavily stocked, and had a reputation for reliability. Yet, despite these assurances, it vanished without a trace, and to this day, its final fate remains one of the most enduring maritime mysteries of the 20th century. Imagine standing on the shore of Hatteras, North Carolina, a place where the sea meets land in a fusion of roaring winds and surging tides. Here, the Atlantic is known for its ferocity, where sudden storms and unpredictable currents can change the course of any ship. It is the perfect backdrop for a disappearance, for the story of the USS Cyclops feels like a ghost story wrapped in the deepest layers of history. One moment, the Cyclops is in regular communication, and then, like a whisper lost in the wind, all contact ceases. No distress signals, no wreckage, nothing. The ship's disappearance occurred during a period of intense naval activity as World War I raged on. The United States Navy was under tremendous pressure to maintain its operational strength, and the Cyclops was considered an important part of the Navy's supply chain. Given the state of the war and the cargo it was carrying, its mission was no small matter. The ship's absence, however, was never properly explained. In fact, to this day, no wreckage of the Cyclops has ever been discovered, despite thorough search efforts, and the ship's disappearance was so sudden that it left many questioning what might have caused it. Most of the official explanations initially suggested that the Cyclops had fallen victim to a storm or a rogue wave, an unpredictable and powerful surge of water that can sink even the sturdiest vessel. The Atlantic, after all, is notorious for sudden and powerful weather patterns. But some crucial details complicate this narrative. The Cyclops was a well-built ship. She had been built to withstand harsh conditions, and the weather reports from the days surrounding her disappearance showed no severe storms in her immediate area. In fact, there were no indications that the ship had encountered any bad weather at all. The only clue was a final radio message from the ship, sent to the U.S. Navy just before it vanished. It was short and ominous. "Weather good, everything okay." But shortly after, all communication ceased, and in the absence of any evidence to confirm the storm theory, other possibilities began to emerge. One theory that has been debated extensively is the idea of human error or sabotage. The USS Cyclops was not just a cargo ship. She was part of the Navy's supply line during a time of global conflict. Could someone aboard the ship have deliberately caused its disappearance? It has been speculated that some of the crew members, who were not always regular sailors but were sometimes conscripted from civilian jobs, might have been disillusioned or even sympathetic to enemy causes. Could a covert act of sabotage have brought the ship down? Adding to this theory is the peculiar nature of the ship's cargo. The Cyclops was carrying manganese ore, a mineral used in the production of steel, but also one that could be highly unstable under certain conditions. Some have suggested that the cargo may have shifted or reacted unpredictably, leading to a catastrophic event. Could a sudden shift in the weight of the ship's cargo, combined with the already precarious conditions of the sea, have caused the Cyclops to capsize? And yet, there is another theory. one that delves into more speculative territory. The Bermuda Triangle. The USS Cyclops disappeared in a region that some have linked to the infamous Bermuda Triangle, a swath of the Atlantic Ocean that stretches from Florida to Bermuda and Puerto Rico. It is a region that has long been associated with unexplained disappearances of ships, planes, and even people. Could the ship have fallen victim to one of the many mysteries attributed to this area? Strange magnetic fields, sudden, untraceable currents, or perhaps forces beyond human understanding? While this theory has been met with skepticism by many, it's impossible to ignore the sheer number of disappearances that have occurred in this area. Is there something about the Bermuda Triangle that we do not yet understand? Could there be natural anomalies or forces at work here that are still beyond our scientific comprehension? The idea remains tantalizing, though no direct evidence has ever connected the USS Cyclops to this enigmatic region. Perhaps most unsettling of all is the idea that the true cause of the Cyclops' disappearance is something we may never know. For in the vastness of the ocean, there are things that simply vanish, beyond the reach of even the most advanced technology or the most determined search efforts. The USS Cyclops is a reminder that sometimes the sea doesn't give up its secrets. No wreckage has been found, no bodies have surfaced, and no further clues have emerged. All that remains is the haunting question: what happened to the Cyclops? Over the years, the mystery of the USS Cyclops has continued to fuel curiosity and intrigue. Theories abound, ranging from plausible scientific explanations to more far-out ideas, and yet none have fully satisfied the questions that still linger. The ship's disappearance remains a haunting, unexplained event that leaves us with more questions than answers. As new generations of investigators take a closer look at the mystery, there are still those who believe the sea may be hiding something, perhaps a final undiscovered truth about what caused the ship's sudden and unexplained vanishing. In the end, the USS Cyclops is more than just a lost ship. It's a symbol of the ocean's impenetrable mystery. The sea remains a vast, unknowable expanse, one that can swallow the most powerful of ships without a trace. What lies beneath its surface? What mysteries remain hidden, waiting to be discovered? The disappearance of the USS Cyclops serves as a reminder that some secrets, no matter how hard we search, may remain forever out of reach. Beneath the towering peaks of Mount Vesuvius, where the earth trembles with the potential of future eruptions, lies a city frozen in time, a city that, for centuries, was buried in the earth, forgotten by history. Pompeii. In the year 79 AD, the ancient Roman city of Pompeii was a bustling urban center, known for its grandeur, its wealth, and its thriving trade. Located on the Bay of Naples, the city was home to around 20,000 people, living in a complex society full of art, politics, religion, and commerce. The streets were alive with activity: markets, baths, homes, and temples. At the heart of the city was its magnificent architecture, with vibrant frescoes adorning walls and sophisticated public spaces that reflected the power and culture of the Roman Empire. Yet, in an instant, Pompeii was erased. The eruption of Mount Vesuvius was swift and catastrophic. For centuries, the city's remains were lost beneath layers of volcanic ash and pumice, only to be rediscovered in the 18th century. What archaeologists uncovered was more than just ruins. They found a moment in time, perfectly preserved, a snapshot of life in the ancient world. The ash had trapped buildings, artifacts, and even the bodies of the people who perished that day, offering an unparalleled window into the past. Walking through the ancient streets of Pompeii today, one cannot help but feel a sense of eerie stillness. The stone streets are narrow, the buildings half buried in volcanic ash, their remnants protruding from the ground like the skeletons of a long-dead civilization. You can stand at the edge of a once bustling marketplace and imagine the people who traded goods here, the artisans who crafted intricate jewelry, the politicians who gathered in their villas. And yet, just a few moments after all that life, it was as though time itself had stopped. The eruption of Vesuvius, which began on the morning of August 24th, was not just a violent burst of molten lava. It was an event that brought about death in a way no one could have imagined. Pyroclastic flows, fast-moving clouds of gas, ash, and rock swept over the city, reaching temperatures so high they instantly suffocated and incinerated anyone in their path. Those who did not die immediately were buried under a thick blanket of ash and debris, which preserved the city in a state of eerie permanence. As the ash settled, the city was abandoned. What followed was centuries of neglect, mystery, and silence. Pompeii, though a part of the Roman Empire, was largely forgotten until 1599, when a man named Fabricio discovered some ruins while digging a well. But it wasn't until 1748, when a Spanish engineer named Roque Joaquin de Alcubierre led a major excavation effort, that Pompeii came to light once again. The first excavations uncovered stunningly well-preserved remnants of everyday life in the city. Houses with frescoes depicting gods, mythological stories, and daily activities. Bathhouses with intricate mosaics, and even preserved furniture. But it was the bodies that truly struck the world. In their desperate final moments, the victims of the eruption had been encased in the hardened ash, their positions frozen in time. Archaeologists discovered hollow cavities in the ash, and by pouring plaster into them, they revealed casts of human bodies, preserved in their final postures, hands reaching out, bodies curled in agony, people trying to escape. These casts, while chilling, are also the most poignant remnants of that fateful day. The way the bodies were preserved has led to numerous theories and speculation about the eruption's intensity and the horrific final moments of Pompeii's citizens. Some bodies seem to have been caught in the middle of everyday tasks, suggesting they were taken by surprise. Others are positioned in a way that suggests the eruption's violence was sudden and relentless. But beyond the physical remains, Pompeii itself holds more mysteries, unanswered questions that continue to puzzle archaeologists and historians alike. For one, how exactly did the eruption unfold? The widely accepted timeline states that the eruption began early in the day, with a column of smoke and ash rising high into the sky, visible from miles away. Yet the most destructive part of the eruption didn't happen until later. Pyroclastic flows surged down the slopes of the volcano, obliterating the city in minutes. Why did it take hours for the people of Pompeii to evacuate, despite the visible signs of an impending disaster? Was there a sense of complacency or disbelief that the eruption would be as catastrophic as it turned out to be? Moreover, Pompeii's destruction wasn't the only mystery surrounding the eruption. The nearby town of Herculaneum, also buried by ash, was affected in a different way. Herculaneum's inhabitants were entombed in a much more violent pyroclastic flow, which carbonized wood, food, and other organic materials, resulting in an entirely different form of preservation. What was the true extent of the eruption's impact on surrounding areas? Could the volcanic eruption have altered the course of Roman history in ways we don't yet understand? Even more mysterious is the potential significance of the eruption in the context of Roman society. Was the eruption seen as a divine omen, a punishment from the gods, or simply a tragic natural event? The writings of Pliny the Younger, who famously documented the eruption and the death of his uncle, Pliny the Elder, offer us one of the only contemporary accounts of the event. Yet even Pliny's account is incomplete and vague in places. Why did the people of Pompeii fail to respond more quickly to the warning signs? Why did many of them stay behind, even as the eruption became more violent? Was there something about the culture of Pompeii at that time, its complacency or confidence, that contributed to their tragic fate? As the city has been excavated, archaeologists have uncovered not just the bodies, but an immense wealth of artifacts, coins, jewelry, pottery, tools, and even the skeletons of animals. Yet with all of these remarkable finds, Pompeii still holds many secrets. There are still many undiscovered areas, buildings that have yet to be unearthed, and relics that might shed further light on the final days of the city. Could there be hidden tombs, forgotten treasures, or ancient documents buried beneath the layers of ash, waiting to reveal more of the story? One of the most profound mysteries lies in the last days of Pompeii. Was there a prophetic or mythological significance to its destruction? Could the people have known their fate was sealed? The ruins of Pompeii stand not only as a testimony to the power of nature, but also to the fleeting nature of human civilization. As we stand amid the ruins today, we are confronted with a question that may never be fully answered. What does Pompeii truly tell us about ourselves, our fragility, and our place in history? The city of Pompeii is not just a place of ancient ruins. It's a place where history, nature, and mystery converge. The unanswered questions, the theories, and the stories of the people who lived and died there continue to captivate the imagination. For every discovery made, another question rises to the surface. What was Pompeii's final fate? What do we still not know about the eruption of Vesuvius? And what could lie beneath the layers of time yet to be unearthed? Pompeii remains a city that, like its people, is frozen in the ash of time. Its mysteries buried, but still very much alive. Beneath the golden Mediterranean sun on the ancient island of Crete, there lies an enigma that has puzzled archaeologists, linguists, and historians for over a century. The object, unassuming in its simplicity, is a small, circular disc, roughly 6 inches in diameter, but it carries a weight of mystery far beyond its size. Known as the Phaistos Disc, it was discovered in 1908 by the Italian archaeologist Luigi Pernier at the Phaistos Palace, a Minoan site on Crete that dates back to the 2nd millennium BC. The disc is made of fired clay, its surface etched with a series of strange, spiraling symbols that do not resemble any known script from the ancient world. The markings on the disc appear to be a form of writing, but no one has ever successfully deciphered them. Over 200 characters are arranged in a spiral, starting from the outer edge and winding inward toward the center, much like the patterns seen in ancient art or architecture. These symbols are distinct from any known writing systems of the time, including Linear A and Linear B, which were used by the Minoans and Mycenaeans respectively. Despite efforts by scholars over the years, the meaning behind these symbols remains elusive. The very existence of such a script calls into question the limits of our understanding of ancient cultures and their written languages. The discovery of the Phaistos Disc raised immediate intrigue. How could something so intricate and unique have emerged from the Minoan civilization, a society whose written records, though plentiful, have mostly remained unreadable or lost to time? Unlike the familiar hieroglyphs of Egypt or the cuneiform of Mesopotamia, the symbols on the Phaistos disc seemed alien. Was it a form of communication or something else entirely? Was it a religious artifact, a ritual object, or perhaps even a tool for teaching? The disc itself was found in a sealed room in the ruins of the Phaistos Palace, which had been partially destroyed by a catastrophic event, likely an earthquake, sometime in the mid-2nd millennium BC. This natural disaster left behind the remnants of a once grand city, and among its treasures was the disc. It wasn't the only artifact found at Phaistos, but its strange writing and unique form quickly set it apart from other finds, earning it a special place in the study of ancient civilizations. As scholars began to examine the disc, it became apparent that it didn't resemble any other known script. The symbols themselves are pictorial, like many ancient forms of writing, but there is no consensus on what they represent. Some characters resemble animals, while others depict abstract shapes, human figures, and objects like the sun, moon, or tools. There are 45 distinct symbols, each appearing multiple times, yet none of them are easily traceable to other languages or alphabets used in the ancient world. For many, the disc seemed to hold the potential of being one of the earliest known examples of writing, a key to unlocking a deeper understanding of Minoan language and culture. Some theorized that the Phaistos Disc could represent a phonetic alphabet, one where each symbol stands for a sound, as with the later Greek alphabet. Others suggested that it might be a form of hieroglyphic writing, in which symbols represent ideas or concepts rather than sounds. But what made the Phaistos Disc truly mysterious was the fact that no other examples of this writing have ever been found. In a world where artifacts and written records were highly valued and often reproduced, why would the Minoans have used a completely unique system of writing for this single object? Theories abound regarding the purpose and meaning of the disc. Some scholars believe that it could have been a religious or ceremonial object, possibly used in ritual or worship. The spiral design, for instance, might hold symbolic meaning, representing cycles of time, the movement of celestial bodies, or even the passage of life and death. Others have speculated that it might be a form of teaching tool, a way of conveying knowledge or cultural practices to the next generation. Could it have been a form of symbolic communication, much like how early written languages often developed as a means to document events, transactions, or religious rites? Despite these hypotheses, the Phaistos Disc resists easy categorization. There are no inscriptions anywhere in the Minoan world that correspond to it, nor any similar discs found elsewhere in the ancient Mediterranean. The Phaistos Disc remains a singular artifact, a lone riddle from a time long past. Even today, with advanced technology and centuries of scholarship, its meaning eludes us. Some fringe theories about the disc venture into even more speculative territory. For example, one popular but unproven idea suggests that the Phaistos Disc is not of Minoan origin at all, but rather the work of an advanced civilization from another part of the world, perhaps even from beyond the Mediterranean. Some have suggested that the symbols may represent an alien language, positing that the Phaistos Disc was left behind by extraterrestrial visitors who interacted with the Minoans. Others have gone even further, claiming that the disc could be evidence of ancient knowledge lost to time, suggesting that the Minoans may have had access to technologies or wisdom that we have long forgotten. These theories, though intriguing, lack solid evidence and remain outside the mainstream academic discourse. Still, they reflect the deep mystery that surrounds the disc. Why does it remain so enigmatic when other ancient languages have been deciphered? Perhaps more grounded theories focus on the geopolitical context of the Minoan civilization. At its height, the Minoans were a powerful maritime people, trading extensively with other cultures throughout the Mediterranean. Could the symbols on the Phaistos Disc be a form of diplomatic communication, or a code used to transmit secret messages between leaders or cities? Minoan society was highly advanced, with a complex religion, art, and architecture. It's possible that the Phaistos Disc was used as a ritual object, a form of sacred text meant to connect the people with their gods, or a way to mark important events in their religious calendar. One of the enduring questions surrounding the disc is the fact that it was found in isolation. No other objects with similar markings or symbols have been found anywhere in the Minoan world. Why was this one disc so different? Could the Minoans have been experimenting with a new form of writing, one that never fully took hold or was abandoned due to political or cultural upheaval? Or did the disc serve a highly specific purpose that was lost with the fall of the Minoan civilization? Today, the Phaistos Disc resides in the Heraklion Archaeological Museum in Crete, where it continues to captivate visitors and scholars alike. Its mystery has not diminished with time. In fact, it seems to grow with each new discovery, theory, and interpretation. Every new study, every new technology applied to its surface brings us closer to understanding its origins. But still, we remain on the edge of its secrets, unable to fully unlock its meaning. What does the Phaistos Disc truly represent? Was it a form of ancient knowledge, a way to communicate across time, or perhaps an expression of a society's deepest beliefs and rituals? The questions surrounding it have persisted for over a century, and as of now, the answers remain just beyond our grasp. The symbols etched into the clay continue to speak to us from a distant past, inviting us to decipher them, to understand the minds of those who created them, and to reflect on what other secrets from ancient civilizations remain hidden, waiting to be uncovered. The Phaistos Disc, a mystery of the past, yet still a symbol of humanity's unyielding quest for knowledge and understanding. Could there be more to this ancient riddle than we've yet imagined? What hidden truths lie within its spiraling symbols, waiting to be revealed? In the depths of an unassuming warehouse in Manchester, an unusual discovery was made. On the surface, it seemed like nothing more than a bones and relics collection, perhaps discarded after some routine excavation. Yet, one skeleton, unlike any other, stood out. As researchers unearthed the remains, they were struck by something unmistakably odd. This was no ordinary human body. The skull, misshapen and elongated, immediately suggested something unnatural. The bones, too, were unusually thick and strong, not quite resembling the frail human form one might expect from a burial ground dating back centuries. The deformation was not subtle. The cranial structure had been altered to such an extent that it defied typical human anatomical patterns, raising questions about its origins that reached far beyond the simple realm of medical science. The discovery, first reported in 2003, was made by a team of archaeologists conducting routine work on a building site. The bones were identified as belonging to a young woman who had died around 2,000 years ago, an era not long before the Roman conquest of Britain. Yet it wasn't just the date of death that puzzled investigators. It was the odd features of the body itself. The skull had an unnatural elongation, a characteristic seen in various cultures throughout history, but rarely in the ancient British Isles. These elongated skulls had been documented in cultures such as the Moche civilization in South America, or among certain tribal societies in Africa. But what was it doing buried in the heart of ancient Britain? To complicate matters further, the skeleton wasn't the only unusual element. The woman's body had been laid to rest in a position that appeared both ceremonial and unsettling, suggesting that the individual had been of special importance. Could it be that this person was not just a woman, but someone of a hybrid nature, part of an unknown culture, or even something else entirely? The discovery would soon send ripples through the archaeological community, sparking a heated debate. Was this skeleton a human anomaly, or was it evidence of something altogether more extraordinary? An interdimensional being, a hybrid, or a member of some long-lost race that had left traces on humanity's past? Theories and speculation. Historically, cranial deformation has not been uncommon. It has been practiced in many ancient cultures as a form of ritual, with individuals deliberately altering the shape of their skulls to reflect cultural beliefs or demonstrate status. In some societies, elongated heads were seen as a mark of nobility, wisdom, or divine favor. The practice usually involved binding a child's skull in a way that would shape the bone as it grew, forming a striking cone or oval-like appearance. But the Manchester skull was not shaped in the typical manner of cultural deformation. Its proportions, the thickness of the bone, and the absence of significant markings usually associated with binding raised questions. Was this truly the result of human hands manipulating the body, or was there something more at play? At first, some scholars argued that the deformation could indeed be a result of cultural practice. However, further analysis revealed that the skull exhibited characteristics not consistent with other known deformities. Its size and structure suggested something more alien, not simply altered by human hands. What made this discovery even more mystifying was the absence of similar finds in the region. Unlike other ancient sites where head deformation practices were documented, the Manchester skeleton was completely out of place. Could the woman have been a member of a group or tribe that practiced extreme forms of body modification? Some argued this theory, suggesting that perhaps she belonged to an unknown cult or religious group that inhabited the area long before the rise of the Romans. But this explanation doesn't fully address the peculiarities of the body. Why did the skull look so different from any known deformities, and why had such an individual been buried in a seemingly sacred manner? The more speculative theories suggest something even more mysterious. Some suggest that the skull shape could be evidence of alien intervention. They point to other instances of elongated skulls around the world, and propose that such deformities could indicate the influence of extraterrestrial beings on early human civilizations. Perhaps, these theorists argue, the hybrid theory holds the key to understanding human history itself. Could there have been early encounters between humans and beings from beyond the stars? Beings who shared their knowledge or DNA with early humans? Others speculate that the individual was not merely human, but perhaps part of a hybrid species, an ancient experiment in human evolution. What if this woman, with her odd features, was the product of some long-forgotten effort to crossbreed human and non-human entities? Could this be the missing link between humans and some other intelligent species, long hidden in the shadows of time? The skeptic's view. However, the more grounded perspective remains firmly in the realm of the human. Experts in forensic anthropology and archaeology continue to argue that there is a simpler explanation. The skull's unusual shape could be the result of a genetic anomaly or a rare disorder that caused the woman's bones to form in this peculiar way. Conditions like craniosynostosis, a disorder in which the bones in a child's skull fuse too early, can result in abnormal head shapes, though this typically does not explain the extreme elongation observed in the Manchester skeleton. Further, the fact that the woman's body had been placed in what appeared to be a ritualistic burial might suggest that she was viewed with great reverence, possibly because of her physical differences. It's possible that those who buried her saw her as a person of great spiritual significance, someone who might have been chosen to represent some sort of divine connection, rather than a hybrid or extraterrestrial being. Despite these logical explanations, there are lingering questions. What about the strength of her bones? Why were her remains treated so differently from other ordinary graves in the region? And why, despite numerous excavations in and around the Manchester area, has no one found a similar burial of such a uniquely altered body? What's hidden beneath the surface? The case of the deformed skeleton in Manchester is a reminder of how little we truly know about the ancient past. There are countless gaps in our understanding of human history, and some mysteries are perhaps destined to remain forever unsolved. Was this skeleton simply the product of cultural practices, or could it be something more, something yet to be discovered? Could this woman, with her unusual skull, offer us a glimpse into a history long lost, a history we can't yet understand? As researchers continue to analyze the bones, the questions only grow more complex. Every new theory leads to more unanswered questions, and each layer of investigation seems to peel back yet another mystery. What was the true significance of this individual? And what does her unusual skeleton say about the nature of ancient civilizations? About how they viewed the human body, spirituality, and the forces that shaped their world? In the silence of that warehouse in Manchester, her remains rest undisturbed, a silent testament to a history lost to time. The answers may never fully surface, but the mystery persists, calling to those brave enough to seek what lies beneath. As long as the skeleton remains, so too does the question. What is hidden within the bones of this enigmatic figure, and what truths will we uncover, if we ever truly do? The Voynich manuscript sits quietly in a glass case at the Beinecke Rare Book and Manuscript Library at Yale University. Its ancient pages, yellowed and fragile, are a tantalizing enigma that has vexed scholars, cryptographers, and historians for centuries. Bound in a mysterious vellum and adorned with elaborate pictorial illustrations, this medieval book weighs heavily with secrets that have yet to be uncovered. At first glance, the manuscript appears to be an ordinary text, yet nothing about it is ordinary. Its writing, a unique script composed of over 170,000 characters, seems to defy every known language, making it unlike anything ever discovered. The glyphs swirl across the pages in a deliberate yet indecipherable pattern. Scholars have attempted to decode its meaning, only to be left with more questions than answers. No known alphabet can match the strange symbols. No linguistic roots can be traced. No cipher has unlocked its secrets. Who wrote this book? And why does it remain so impenetrable? What knowledge could be contained within its pages? And perhaps most unsettling of all, what if the manuscript holds the key to a lost world, one that is still hidden from us, locked in an ancient code? The Voynich manuscript first surfaced in 1912, when it was purchased by the rare books dealer Wilfrid Voynich from a collection in Italy. Voynich, a bibliophile with an affinity for rare and obscure works, was instantly intrigued by the manuscript's strange writing and bizarre illustrations. He was quick to realize that its origins were uncertain, its language unknown. The manuscript seemed to defy easy categorization, and as Voynich began researching its background, he discovered that no one had ever truly deciphered its contents. A closer inspection of the manuscript reveals several fascinating features. The pages are filled with intricate drawings that include astrological charts, depictions of herbal plants, human figures, and mysterious fantastical creatures. There are strange symbols scattered throughout the book, sometimes interspersed with the cryptic text. The plants, though highly detailed, don't appear to resemble any known species. The astrological diagrams, though accurate in their structure, seem to depict celestial arrangements that don't align with any recorded tradition. The illustrations, while rich in detail, evoke an eerie sense of unfamiliarity. Where did these images come from? The manuscript itself has been carbon dated to the early 15th century, placing it somewhere around 1404 to 1438. Yet, it doesn't appear to be a product of any known civilization from that time. No record exists of a similar book, nor does any other document from the period contain a script like the one in the Voynich manuscript. Its style and content seem to blend different traditions: medieval, Renaissance, alchemical, and astrological, but none can explain its true purpose. The first theories about its origin suggested that the manuscript could be a ciphered text, perhaps the work of an alchemist, a heretic, or a lost society. Some early scholars believed it could contain secret knowledge, medicinal formulas, hidden teachings, or coded messages for those initiated into an ancient tradition. After all, the medieval world was rife with secret societies, esoteric knowledge, and hidden codes. Was the Voynich manuscript a book of secrets, a treasure map, or a philosophical treatise on subjects that were too dangerous for the public to know? Throughout the 20th century, the manuscript gained an almost mythical reputation. Cryptanalysts, especially those working during World War II, took on the task of cracking its code. Some even suggested that the manuscript could be the work of a genius hoaxer, a medieval prankster, perhaps someone with an exceptional knowledge of languages, trying to create a riddle that would remain unsolved for centuries. Yet, the more analysts examined the text, the more complex and impenetrable it became. Despite their best efforts, no one has ever cracked the code. Theories abound about the manuscript's meaning, and many of them venture into the realm of the speculative. One prominent theory is that the Voynich manuscript could be written in a natural language, but one that has been lost to history. In this case, the strange symbols might represent words from an ancient tongue that simply doesn't exist anymore. Linguists have suggested that it could be an early form of a language spoken by a culture now extinct, perhaps a precursor to modern Indo-European languages. If this theory is true, then the manuscript could be the last surviving record of a civilization whose language was so obscure that even the creators of the text failed to understand it after a few generations. Another hypothesis, popular among those who lean toward more fringe theories, posits that the Voynich manuscript is a book of prophecy, its words and images containing cryptic references to future events, perhaps even reaching into our time. Some suggest that the illustrations of plants and celestial bodies are not botanical diagrams or star charts, but symbols of greater cosmic forces meant to guide the reader toward a deeper understanding of the universe's mysteries. Is it possible that the book is not meant to be read in the traditional sense, but rather to be interpreted symbolically, much like an ancient form of astrological or mystical divination? Others have proposed that the manuscript is simply a forgery, a hoax designed to confuse and frustrate future generations. Some point to the intricate embellishments in the drawings and the seemingly deliberate complexity of the text as evidence of an attempt to create an impression of mystery. But if this is true, it raises the question, why go to such lengths to deceive? And if the manuscript is indeed a hoax, why did it persist for so long as a source of such profound intrigue? Another possibility that has been explored in more recent years is the idea that the Voynich manuscript is the work of a medieval scholar who sought to create a cryptic language for the purposes of personal or religious expression. This theory suggests that the manuscript could have been a form of meditation or prayer, a way for the author to engage in an introspective journey using a private language to communicate with a higher power. The peculiar illustrations of plants and figures could then represent symbols of the author's inner thoughts and beliefs. The Voynich manuscript remains an object of fascination not only because of the mystery surrounding it, but also because of its perplexing persistence. Despite the best efforts of some of the brightest minds in cryptography and linguistics, it still resists comprehension. The text, at first glance, seems like a riddle without an answer, an artifact from a forgotten past that might offer a glimpse into the minds of its creators, but refuses to divulge its full meaning. Is the manuscript a record of lost knowledge, or is it simply a testament to our unyielding desire to uncover the truth, even when the clues refuse to reveal themselves? Perhaps the Voynich manuscript was never meant to be solved, or perhaps its secrets are hidden in a way we are not yet capable of understanding. In this age of technology and rapid discovery, we are closer than ever to solving many of the world's great mysteries. Yet, the manuscript stands as a reminder that some enigmas are meant to elude us forever. For now, the Voynich manuscript remains an object of wonder, a symbol of the mysteries that still lie just beyond our grasp. What if the answers are hidden within its pages, waiting for the right moment or the right mind to unlock them? What knowledge might be waiting, disguised in a code that has resisted centuries of scrutiny? The answers, like the manuscript itself, remain shrouded in mystery, and perhaps that is where the true allure lies, in the unanswered questions that continue to captivate our imagination.